Cards Live. Yeah. Ha. Hobby Talk Sports Cards Live, here we come. This show about to go, Jeremy Lee, get it done. This hobby is a lifestyle, bro. Y'all know. This hobby is a lifestyle, bro. Let's go. Best guests in the industry, you gon' see it tonight. We gon' keep up with this energy at Sports Cards Live. Y'all know it's a lifestyle. Y'all know that we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
How's that for a little treat for you all, guys? Welcome. Episode number 270 of Sports Cards Live. It's Saturday night, May the 31st, 2025. My name is Jeremy Lee, guys. Tomorrow night, I'm back on the channel with a Fanatics Collect weekly auction ending watch party. I'm especially excited because I got a bunch of my cards, my early hockey tobacco cards, C55s and C56s, ending in the auction towards my Joe Jackson consolidation. Guys, next weekend, no shows on the channel. I will be at the Edmonton Expo, but for you podcast listeners, there will be some podcasts coming out. The Road to the National series that I've been working on will be coming out on podcast that week. After, guys, if you are looking to add a grail into your collection, make sure you check out Fund Your Cards, the hobby's leading consolidator. They will help you finance the purchase with your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com, and there you will find their proprietary client platform that cements them as the leaders in the space. Also, guys, Mint Inc. is the leading hobby brand in Canada. Check out their physical location in Toronto. Their online shopping with worldwide shipping. They do live stream shopping, auctions, breaks, grading, and more. Mint Inc. brings the ultimate hobby experience to collectors in Canada. Check out mintinc.ca, and also check out GP Sports Cards for a wide variety of hockey card breaks located right here on YouTube, streaming every Wednesday and Friday. All new products and breaks can be found on their website, gpsportscards.com. And guys, if you're looking for a gem mint in sports statistics, Rolling Insights delivers high-quality data for businesses who trust their data feeds to power their platforms with real-time statistics, box scores, and player and team performance data. Fantasy players rely on SportsWise for instant access to performance data. Ditch those messy spreadsheets. Turn raw stats into a real asset, into a real advantage. Visit rolling-insights.com today. And also, guys, check out Chronozio, the ultimate inventory manager with 90% accurate AI auto-filling. You'll love their fully integrated eBay connection that has been a part of the eBay community since 2017. Millions of cards have been listed and sold using Chronozio. Once you hit 1,000, 50,000, or even 250,000 cards, Chronozio is the only option. Elevate your collection and inventory management. Get started at home.chronozio.com. And if you'd like to sell some cards on eBay, but you want the pros to handle it for you, reach out to me and I can help you consign your cards with Slab Sharks. Hit me up on Instagram or send me an email to jeremy@slabsharks.com. Guys, this show is also available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow and subscribe for free. Leave a rating or review on your chosen podcast platform. As always, thank you to all of our loyal viewers and podcast listeners for your ongoing support. If you're not yet subscribed, please take a moment and do so. And as always, your comments and your questions will be in play tonight. Let's bring out, you guys know him. You guys love him. I love him. Mr. Joe Perreault. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Jay Lee. Happy Saturday night. What's going on? The chat is already on fire.
Chat's on fire. We played the alternative intro song tonight. What'd you think of that?
I liked it. Had a little extra funky beat in it going on. So I'll have to appreciate it more and more if we keep using it. Kind of get into the bones a little bit more of what's going on there.
It's it's funny. So Victory Investments, Sean, who wrote and performed the song that I've been using here for 5 years, he sent that one to me a while ago. Like I've had that in my back pocket for quite some time. I've used it a few times, but not in quite some time. And here we go. We broke it out again tonight, just for fun. But we got a great show lined up tonight, Joe. We've got Mr. Minty. Steve Morse will be joining us shortly. He'll be our first guest. Leighton Sheldon is going to join us. After that, we got Mikey Singer from the Expo coming on. I will be at the Edmonton Expo, as I just said, next weekend. I cannot wait for that. And then we got Tony. TJ is online. He's going to come on with us for a little bit. And Chris Hoge coming on the back end to close things out with us. As always, I'm sure we'll have some great conversations with everybody throughout the night. We got some good topics, lots of topics, right? We've got the PSA survey that really sent some shockwaves through the hobby upper deck with their new slab for the RPAs for patch security and protection. We got playoffs happening still as well. We're going to talk about a few different things tonight, so it should be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what was going on in the chat here so far. We got Stoops first to the chat tonight. What's up, Stoops? Good to see you. Laura as well. Linda's first is here as well. Welcome to the show. Louie from the Gong Show. What's up, Louie? Welcome. We got Orlando from A Collector's Dream. What's up, Orlando? Good to see you, buddy. He can't wait to see Tony on the show. Jacob Dahl is here. Linda's, anyone know what these crowns with numbers beside them mean? I don't even know what you're referring to. What am I missing on that? Not sure what you're talking about there, but I'm curious. You got my curiosity peaked. Todd McDonald, what's going on, Todd? Mike Double V, welcome to the show. Thank you, Linda's first, wishing me to have fun at Edmonton next week. There is something big going on out there. There's going to be NHL playoffs going on out there as well. Louis, good comment, says, I heard this Jeremy Lee show is pretty sweet. Figured I'd check it out. Looks good. Hey, good to have you back. Louis Skeppy's here. What's going on, Skeppy? Mike Petty says, rest in peace, SGC. PSA moving into the same building next door in Boca Raton. No Peter, no registry, I think you mean. Terrible fitting slab, suddenly slow service. Oh, you seem unhappy, Mike Petty, with what's going on. I need some clarity on that one too. I heard about a move, but I did not, I saw a couple of headlines, but I didn't click in. Not yet. Anyway, Jeff McMahon, what's going on, Jeff? Luke, welcome to the show. Junk Wax Museum. Yes, Joe the Philosopher. Lantern Cards. We'll see you in Edmonton next weekend. Looking forward to that. Irish Flyers. What's up, Neil? Good to see you. Hobby Champ says, this should be a doozy. Can't wait to hear everyone proclaim how sanctity of easily removable card damage. I think he's talking about the upper deck slabs on the RPAs coming out this year. Yankees fan is here with us. TJ, Tony is in the chat. He'll be joining us a little bit later. Chad Shipper, what's happening, Chad? Good to see you, buddy. Jeff Hart, what's happening, Jeff Hart? Mike Petty, can't wait to hear the big news about the partnership between PSA and Mr. Minty. We are bringing Mr. Minty on very soon, guys. We are. Mark Santucci, what's up, Mark? Good to see you. And Mike, the sports history collector, says PSA is changing their name. I don't know about that. What's up, Ziggy No? Welcome to the show. Oh, Linda's first. In my chat, there are these purple ovals with a crown-looking icon and a number. Interesting. Don't know what that is. All right. Well, Joe, how's your week been, bud? Are you? I know you're back to work. You're busy. How has your consumption of hobby content changed over the last month or so since you did kind of go back and do some other kind of work?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I'm kind of doing more splashes into different channels that I like to listen to. Sometimes not, able to do the whole thing. So I might just try and pop in, 7 or 8 minutes in and get a gist of what's going on. Maybe, we all use the 1.5 or, to see what we can find out. But, it's still always exciting. And then sometimes you'll go through little waves of being able to absorb some. I did actually just this afternoon listen to TJ's interview with Iowa Dave on the shallow end and really appreciated the discussion of the Reggie. That's why I'm wearing the Oakland jersey in honor of Reggie Jackson, even though I know there's a big story behind that hole. But yeah, consuming what I can.
Nice. Yeah, I like how you said we do it at 1.5. I listen to podcasts as fast as I can because there is a lot of content I enjoy listening to, but I've really moved into the podcast world. I still watch YouTube and I'll listen to YouTube, but every night I walk for an hour and it's a great time to listen. If I'm not on the phone with you or somebody else, it's a great time to listen to podcasts. And I try to listen to as much as I can. sometimes I wish that certain ones were shorter. I'm sure people felt that way about this one. And sometimes I wish that they are longer at the same time so I can, enjoy more of my favorites for a longer time. But yeah, it's been pretty good. Also, want to let people know that if you will be going to the Expo in Edmonton, I will be giving away 2 sets of passes to that. We're going to talk about that when Mikey comes on a little bit later, and we're going to and I'll be working that on Instagram and hopefully on YouTube as well. But if you are going to the show, follow my Instagram for sure, and maybe you can win tickets through me to get into the Sport Card Expo. And also, I hope you guys have been enjoying the Road to the National series that I've been doing in partnership with the National. 3 episodes have released. There's one more that is in the can. It will be coming out on the 4th of June, and then there will be 2 final episodes to come out towards the end of June as well. And then, as I mentioned before, Joe, tomorrow is like a big night for me because as far as this whole Joe Jackson consolidation thing, the cards that I am, they were the hardest ones for me to move, are selling tomorrow night on Fanatics Collects weekly auction. Breaking up my 1910 C56 hockey set and my 1911 C55 hockey set. So those are all going to end tomorrow. And I'm sad about that, but I'm happy about paying down that debt to fund your cards and, just getting on with things. So I'll be covering some of those tomorrow night during the show, along with some baseball, basketball, football cards as well. So tune in tomorrow, guys, and maybe you can see by my reaction if I'm happy or sad or just, somewhere in the middle about some of those sales. But I have been keeping tabs on them, and they're so far I'm very pleased with where they're at. So I think we're on good track there. What's going on? Oh,
good
go
luck.
ahead.
I was just gonna say good luck with the auctions, and we'll be I'll be tuning into your new all sports coverage, which I greatly appreciate. But definitely be looking forward to see hopefully some strong sales on those very heart-rending cards to take out of your collection.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Hockey-wise, the Stanley Cup Finals are set, Edmonton versus Florida, with Game 1 not until Wednesday. And I have to think, with weather getting nice out and, a 6 or 7 day break in between the third round and the final round, are people going to forget at all about it? Or are they going to get caught up in doing other things in this nice weather, if you happen to have nice weather? Or are they just going to get right back into it once Game 1 starts? I mean, it's a big series. It's a rematch from last year. You got Connor McDavid and the Oilers going up against the Florida Panthers, who are the reigning champions. I think that timing is weird. I'm sure there's reasons for it, why they had to push it out like a week, but it's a long break in between the 2 series. So we'll see. I'm sure I'm going to be excited about it. I just hope that people, especially people south of the border who are interested, don't lose interest because of the break. What do you think? Is there any risk there? And then let's talk about basketball quick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that fresh legs will make for some real powerful skating. I'm not sure if hockey is in the same way basketball might be, where the skills and dexterity get a little rusty even just in a week. But I know that the fresh legs will be. I think it'll be fine. In some ways it lets everybody's appetite get wet for some good old slam and bam hockey.
Yeah. And then basketball, I know. So you are not going to be keeping track of the score tonight. Is that right?
I mean, I know it may be a fool's errand to get through the show, but I had a surf session that interrupted my capacity to watch the first half. And so at this point, I'm just taping the whole game and hoping that I can watch it after, or if I find out, I'd like to watch it, because that's Game 6, and it's going to see who goes forward. Either they're going back to Madison Square Garden for a Game 7, or the Pacers are pushing forward to the NBA Finals, which that's what I'm kind of rooting for. I like Siakam and I like Halliburton, and so I'm hoping for the Pacers. Go Pacers!
We will see. Yeah, we will see. I'm looking at the score right now. I'm not gonna ruin that for you at this point, though. I'll leave it. Yeah, man. Cards. Good afternoon. Super hyped for the Edmonton Expo. We'll see you there, Mo. That sounds good. Mike Petty says you can earn crown points by contributing to chat. Makes sense. They give #1 crowns to the YouTube Hall of Fame commenters. Just that must be what we're seeing in the chat there. Ziggy, no. Did anyone watch Chris from PSA was live on Hobby Hotline today? It's Chris Carlin he's talking about. He didn't answer any questions, and the moderator was very friendly to PSA. Well, of course, the moderator is going to be friendly to their guests. Linda's first. It's a community leaderboard, and I guess you get points with certain comments. I wasn't aware that was going on this channel, but if it is, it is. Good luck to everybody, I suppose. Bob Boozle listens to Sports Cards Live at 0.5 speed because he does not want it to end. I call kind of BS on that, Bob Boozle, but I appreciate the sentiment, buddy. Very, very much so. Thank you so much for that. Mike Petty says Hobby Hotline has jumped the shark. A shame too, because they have like 6 to 7 great hosts. I don't know. Can't really say much about that. Dave Marone, what's up, Dave? Good to see you. Lucky K is here. Welcome to the show. Dave's liking your Oakland jersey, Joe. Very nice. What a breakup. Those old hockey cards, they say breaking up is hard. It is hard to do, Mike Petty. It is hard to do, but I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay for sure. What's up, Mr. Manos? Welcome to the show. Vintage wants to know, can the Oilers pull it off? I mean, if I was betting, I would not bet on the Oilers. I would bet on Florida, but I'm always wrong. So probably the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup, but I don't think they are. Orlando's cheering for the Panthers. I could see it happen for sure. Hobby Champ says if Bobrovsky wins a second cup, will people start to finally pay attention to his career? I'm going to say no, they will not. Just look at Vasilevsky, who I think has 2 cups himself, so probably not. Unfortunately for those guys. Stukes puts up a question mark. Pacers up by question mark. He's just messing with you, Joe. Just messing with you.
It's bound to happen. I'm not going to worry about it if it does.
Chris says, or Stukes says that Chris from PSA answered the cleaning question. So that's good to know. I'm sure I know we'll be talking about that a little bit for sure. Curmudgeon is here. What's up, baseball card? Curmudgeon. Dan Brown. I thought I remembered saying in the middle of Steelers. I thought I remembered Jay Lee saying in the middle of the season, Oilers weren't going to win it. Yeah, I still don't think they are. I don't remember saying that, Daniel Brown, but hey, I say a lot of things, so you never know. YK, has it been harder to break up with old girlfriends or cards? Oh, I've had some tough breakups in both categories, YK. So I certainly have. Ziggy No says, in my opinion, PSA survey is a tactic to distract from backyard breaks. Yeah, we'll talk a bit about that too, I'm sure. And okay, good. Welcome everybody to the show. We are going to bring on Steve, Mr. Minty. Are you ready to go, Steve? Give me the thumbs up if you're ready to get started. Okay. You good? What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey, Nat, hold on. Can we make the announcement? Hey guys, how's it going?
It's good. How are you, Steve?
Doing good.
So, hey, my understanding is you know Joe. You guys go back. What's the story there?
I do know Joe. How was your sesh, Joe?
Oh, it was actually kind of a little high tidy, but a few south swell waves were able to make it through, so it was decent, just like chest high. But Steve and I, so I mean, it actually goes all the way back to the Clubhouse days because I only knew Steve as a voice on Clubhouse. And then it was the first Burbank show, and he was set up, and Steve can fill in the rest in a sec, but I think it was one of the first times he was really becoming in a full force presence at a show. And he had this Michael Jordan poster that I was fascinated with. And I was just like, where'd you get that poster, man? I think it had some Oakley sunglasses or something. I don't even remember exactly. But anyway, so the show, the first Burbank show was awesome. Last day, everyone's kind of wrapping up. And I'm out in the parking lot just having a cold one. And then I see Steve coming out there, and he kind of opens up his hatchback. And he walks up with the Michael Jordan poster, and we tip a beer. Next thing you know, we go back to the bar. Steve graciously buys me a beer or two, and that's my story of meeting Mr. Minty at the first Burbank card show. Steve, what do you remember of that evening?
It was all true, and I forgot about that Michael Jordan poster. It was an original poster from when Michael Jordan was represented by Oakley for eyewear, and he had a big campaign for eyewear, and it started the first brand wars between Nike and Oakley. And then Jordan became the first head-to-toe athlete because Nike couldn't have Jordan wearing anything else but Nike. So it was an original advertisement from the Oakley store, and it was a big, 5-foot poster with like metal bars around it. It was pretty rad.
Do you not still have it?
Oh, I do.
Oh, good. And was that one of your first times setting up at a show?
A show that big. I just kind of started on the Southern California scene. It'd been emerging for the past 6 months or so. So yeah,
it was right on.
Well, it's good to get you guys back together here after that. Steve, let's let people get a little bit of the history on Mr. Minty, your product, what it is you do. I want to make sure that there's obviously controversy around card cleaning. There has been for a while. PSA recently, everyone's been talking about it. Well, many people have been talking about it. Putting they had a survey. They said, would you pay X amount of dollars to have your cards cleaned? Some light surface scratches perhaps removed, which I think they removed that language itself after that blew up in their faces, unfortunately. But what can you tell? What is Mr. Minty? Let us know. Let people know, what is Mr. Minty? And, is there anything, and here's the key question that I'm going to get right to the point. Is Mr. Minty any different than Kurt's Card Care?
Sure. I'll get into it all. So at Mr. Minty, we're pioneers of the grade prep category. Grading super important. It's the backbone of our hobby right now and will be for a very long time. But it's expensive. It ties up your time, your money, and your asset. So we have a full line of branded products to help collectors through that process, as well as client services and card services to help all sorts of collectors from all sorts of ranges from novice to expert, just evaluating cards, prepping them for grading, walkthrough services, and liquidity. Our goal is to make the hobby safe and fun for everybody, and that includes our product line. And the main difference between our line and others out there are, we don't have chemicals, we don't have polishes, sprays, or altering tools anywhere in our product line or on our surfaces.
Do you have juice or butter?
No, we don't. Once upon a time we did, and we've removed them from our product line about a year ago. So, and can I ask, why did you do that? What was the catalyst to change that? The writing was on the wall, and I think we could affect more change as leaders by doing the right thing than, trying to make money doing the wrong thing. Yeah,
I think that's fair. How busy is Mr. Minty lately?
Slammed.
Yeah,
just slammed. It's we have fantastic products, and we're innovating every day. Just bringing really cool products to the shelves, but also just our services. Our customer service can't be beat, and that's one thing that's the hobby is missing, is just true customer service. We're 10 minutes away from PSA, so we hand deliver every order to PSA and pick it up. So it's safe, secure. We offer honest consulting, on collectibles. So we're here to help collectors, get it right the first time, keep them in the hobby, and help them make money and save money in an expensive grading process.
Now, when I first caught wind of this PSA survey that went out, and my first touch point with it was on Neo's channel, and I watched his video where he went through the survey. So shout out to Neo for that video. That was, I think helpful for a lot of people to see what was in it. And one of the first things I thought about, Steve, was is PSA, well, now, first of all, there were several questions that were covered in Neo's video and on that survey. I didn't get the survey. I didn't see it for myself, but I saw it on screen. And as soon as I saw the question about the cleaning thing, I thought to myself, are they trying to compete with Mr. Minty, or are they trying to buy Mr. Minty? What's going on there? What did you think when you first learned about that question on the survey?
Yeah, I saw right through it, to be honest with you. I think they're just trying to get a general feel for the landscape. I think it's important to note who broadcasted that survey out there. Neo kind of in my opinion, specializes more in that TCG world than in the sports world. And recently PSA has been grading, 75% TCG versus sports. And that's been consistent for the past about 6 months. And there's a lot of kind of bad eggs emerging in the TCG world. Pokey Master Center and a couple other guys that are like promoting restoration and things like that. And I think it's a litmus test. I'm assuming PSA is getting an uptick in cards that they're kicking back, and I think they're trying to see if the market will kind of give them an answer through this survey of like how many people are into it.
So you say you see right through it, and I want to distill that comment specifically.
Okay.
What was your like, and you kind of explained it, but I want to go further. What do you mean by that? Like you saw right through it. What exactly do you think they're only doing this for market research, or do you think they have contemplated the idea of offering that service themselves? I ask because why would you as PSA put that on a survey if you're not thinking about doing it? So where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. From my knowledge of PSA, they are a kick butt organization. They do monthly hackathons to improve their processes and make their company better. Nats just transform this company into just a absolute machine. But at the end of the day, there's no way they're taking on that liability. Right now you get comments galore of PSA destroyed my card, PSA did that. If you add an extra touch point into the process where they're physically doing something to the card, it's just going to open up that door so wide to like comments and negativity that I can't see them taking on that liability, whether it's comment wise or dollar wise with the asset.
Yeah. I'd never thought about it from the liability, that extra touch point that you mentioned where there is risk that they damage somebody's card. So would they take that on? And I would think, no, they wouldn't. Why would they do that? But for $3 a card times what they do 1.4 million cards a month. If they 1% of that's 140,000, and that's only 1%. It'd probably be a lot more than that. That's 140. It's $500,000. It's an extra $500,000 a month, $6 million a year just to clean cards at $3 a card. Money talks. At the end of the day, money talks, especially when you're a huge company like PSA, like collectors likely looking to go public soon. The more revenue that you can show the investment bankers, the better your go public is going to be, the better your IPO is going to be. And, you're going to have a better liquidity event for yourselves as the current shareholders. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Jeremy. I mean, I think they're trying to go public as well. And I just think that, they've spent so much time, speeding up process. Like, I think, with the scanning, they can measure centering and size through the initial scan, which was on one of the longest parts of the grading process. So it's like, I can't see them adding into the length of the grading process when their entire value proposition is time value money. So it's I think some of the other options were a little bit better. The PSA sleeve for $199 when they cost about a penny to make. I think a 1,000-point margin's a little bit better, but
that's good. That's good margin right now. Yeah, they'd get a deal on Shark Tank just for that. I saw Signed and Slabbed on Instagram offered it for $1. So people are already trying to compete with that. I got a good chuckle out of that. Let's get Joe's thoughts on this, Joe. So you're familiar with the survey. You know that the language changed as well because, and I kind of want to go back to you first, Steve, actually, on the change of the language from removing light scratches on the surface to just taking that out altogether. If they're not going to do it anyway, why would they change the language? I mean, the word cat's out of the bag. Everyone's talking about it. Seems like too little too late to fix that. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we were talking about this a couple months ago about like the centering changes and that full head to toe grading change. There's some disconnect there. I don't know what it is. I can't speak to it. I don't work there, but there's obviously some sort of disconnect. But I think in large, I think they just don't know the TCG community as well as they know the sports card community, and I think they're just trying to dip in and find out more.
What do you think, Joe, about the question being asked, the reasonability of them offering it, the liability piece too, and then changing the language? I know there's a lot there, but let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, what goes through my mind is, I'll purchase raw cards on Fanatics Live Sunday nights from time to time. They're authenticated by CGC, right? And they're little, mini whatever card savers that they have. I'll send a few off without, this is sacrilege for Steve, but I'll send some directly to PSA and just hope for the best. And sometimes they'll come back, at a 6. Sometimes they'll come back at a 9. I've never gotten a 10. But what went through my mind is, in an age where more and more we may be going from a secondary market directly to PSA, be it eBay or Fanatics or any number of other auction houses that allow you to send it directly. A person can't know if there's even just a simple fingerprint. And I don't know what PSA has done in the past, or a smudge or something that would literally, $3 I'd be happy to spend just for the wipe down in those instances where I didn't have access directly to the card. So that's kind of where my brain went as a sort of case use, I guess. I hadn't thought about, mining for data, but, everybody's mining for data these days. So that's also possible. Two things can be true. They can be kind of feeling it out, and they can be potentially actually considering it. I don't really know. This is not my lane, so to speak, but I did see for myself at least some degree of a case use to just feel a little more comfortable with cards that I never physically touched going off to, the mothership.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, you get a lot of people. I mean, I've talked to people who have said to me at card shows, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to get these cards. Great. I got to go by Mr. Minty first. I'm going to get him to clean these cards up for me. So you're well known for being a good, I guess, to be maybe one of the best cleaners of cards. Now, the cleaning process, what does the cleaning process look like for you? What are you doing with your customers' cards? I think the audience would be interested to know, like a behind the scenes look, well, at least a conversation about what it is you do when you clean customers' cards in order to prep them for PSA or Beckett or whoever.
Sure. Yeah. And just for full transparency, everything that we do is listed on mrminty.com under, under our submissions page, just for full transparency. So we don't like to really use the word clean. We call it grade prep. It involves a 30-point inspection of the cards. Anybody that comes to me, receives a full inspection with subgrades, estimated grades, on the card and the auto and who to grade with. That's just an important piece of the puzzle because forever grading has been like Wizard of Oz, these people behind the curtain. So we offer, full transparency to the customer. So microfiber wipe down of the surface, edges and corners, holdering and getting it ready for grading. Poly sleeve, holdering, getting it ready for grading.
Are you a one-man show in terms of the grade prep itself? I know you have people in shipping and product and all that, but what about the the prep? Are you a one-man show prep wise?
I've got another gentleman with me as well, Junior Mintz, and then we've got a small team as well. So we're a 4-person team, and we're pretty efficient.
Okay, that's good to know. I think it's interesting, and so let's go to a couple comments here. First of all, Piccolino the Cat is here in the chat. What's up? Mark Zablo from Bleecker is here. What's up, Zablo? Good to see you. He's calling you out there, Steve. Bob Boozle says, I don't want to punch Mr. Minty. Kurt, on the other hand, He doesn't. Collector's Dream says PSA will wipe the cards with a microfiber cloth. So that's what you're.
I've heard only an air gun.
Only an air gun. So no contact except for air.
Yeah.
What's the is there a benefit in your mind or a weakness in using an air gun versus a microfiber cloth?
I think again, it's a being liable for the touch. I think if there's obvious dust, they'll give it 2 sprays. If not, they'll let it be. That's just what I've heard.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Ziggy No here said PSA is trying to take money from wipers, like I was saying. I was just wondering if they were, if they were looking to compete with you or to, remove some of the third-party guys from the industry. Because is there risk, Steve, to your business if they offer it?
Sure. I mean, yeah, but as a business, our job is to continue to evolve and grow. And, we have a fantastic product business as well. So, we've pivoted once and we can pivot again as needed. Listen, PSA is trying to gobble up everything they can. They're trying to go to more shows, reach out to more people, do less bulk submitters. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible. I just don't think they'll take it on.
Okay. Well, for your business's sake, I hope you're right.
So too.
Orlando Collector's Dream says PSA wants to charge more for everything. I mean, what business doesn't though? I just saying, I'm not saying I agree with it. Listen, I don't submit cards for grading. I just buy them after. To me, it's too risky. It's too inconsistent. It's too spin the wheel. I would rather just look at a card, decide if I agree with the grade. And if it's undergraded, there's a much better chance I'm going to want to acquire it. But I'd rather just acquire already graded cards versus doing it myself.
And a lot of clients come to me for that purpose as well. Whether at the Dallas Card Show or they send them to me. There's a big market for cracking out cards or crossing cards. And many dealers or clients they want a second opinion. The biggest question in the hobby is it worth it? Right? Is it worth grading? Is it worth cracking? Is it worth submitting? And we're here to answer that.
Yeah. Well, let's go with some more questions here in comments. Hobby Champ says, I only use distilled water and cloth because I want my cards graded. But to me, damage is the alteration. Removing damage without cutting or recoloring should be completely justified and accepted. So what he's saying here is that, and I've talked about this before, when you were kids throwing your cards against the wall or putting them in your bike spokes, you were altering your cards. That's the first instance of the alteration.
Yeah.
Now you've got people trying to reverse that. And that's, I think, what Hobby Champs was getting at. If you can reverse that without adding anything or altering the card, like taking trimming it and all that, he says he's okay with it, which
I get it. And there's I think we have not only a communication issue, but a language issue. And I think there needs to be some clearly defined terms between card prep and cleaning and cleaning and altering. PSA is, if you go on PSA's site, it's pretty clear. It's either graded or AA, authentic altered. So you can't get a restored grade as far as I know. I've reached out to Nat. Granted, it was a couple hours ago before the show, so he hasn't gotten back to me. But as far as I know, you can't get a restored grade anymore. So everything just falls under authentic altered.
Unless you're a Hannes Wagner T206, probably.
A Honus or an Honest or Hans Wagner?
Johannes Wagner. Yeah. I just saw one sell recently that had restored on it, I believe was the terminology.
Was it an older cert that they just kept the flip on?
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe they changed. Maybe that standard changed at PSA, which is fair.
And that's some of the clarity that I think collectors need of if there is a restored grade, what are the parameters of it? Is it a historical notion or something like that? Or can a Charizard get an authentic restored,
Yeah, I don't know. But let's keep on going. Dave Marone says PSA has way more to worry about, like ethical and validated grading standards. Mike Petty said, how does PSA align with scum like backdoor breaks? Unless, I don't know what the unless is there, Mike Petty, but he's calling out the collaboration between PSA and Backyard Breaks with Backyard Grant, who is the one who I was going to say accused, but I mean, I saw with my own eyes, made some pretty unfortunate pedo type comments, and now we see them collaborating. That was questionable for me as well. I don't know what that is. I don't know why they make that decision to collaborate with those guys, except that it's big business. And I think big business is bigger than all the talking heads on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else. So I just don't know that they really care what we say. I just don't know if they care too much about what any of us say. They're the ones running the business. They're going to run it their way. And that piece of it, I have somewhat respect that they're going to run their business the way they see fit. But at some point, customers are going to have voices. Let's keep on going. Were you going to jump in there, Steve?
Yeah, and I think along that lines is I think PSA's operated that. I'm assuming PSA's operated that way for a long time. We're the standard. And I think I can assume that they've realized now that their message isn't getting across, that you've got to, if Kurt does a podcast twice a week, that's 720 touches a year outwards to the community saying you can do this versus PSA's one message a year saying you can't do it. And I think they may be getting it out messaged.
Yeah, definitely possible right there. The professor says, will PSA be using Mr. Minty products for their coming cleaning service?
I love Orist is one of my favorite people. I love Orist. Thank you.
Well, he goes on to say, Kurt of Kurt's Card Care states his solutions leave any residue on cards. Do we know if PSA agrees? Can they? They're not here to answer, so we'll move on. Orlando says, for what PSA charges, they should at least provide greater notes on all cards. Yeah, I mean, that to me goes without saying. YK wants to know, does Mr. Minty carry liability insurance? Has he ever had issues with damaging cards of customers?
I always carry a liability insurance, so it's important, especially for the shipping part of it. So
yeah. Have you ever damaged somebody's card?
Nothing of like significance, right? And the one card that I did damage, I paid out.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Dan's Vintage here says PSA should maybe fix how poorly they grade vintage baseball, or just hand off vintage to SGC and stick to the shiny stuff.
And I think that's part of the purpose of purchasing SGC. You've got all of the vintage is on the East Coast, 80-90% of it. All the graders are on the East Coast. And PSA is running a lot of the vintage still out of California. And I think I think SGC PSA office out in Florida will be a vintage hub out of, for one of the many purposes.
It kind of makes sense, right? It makes sense to me. What's up, 902 Vintage? Welcome to the show. Jeff's Card Journey says to you, Steve, do you evaluate crossovers in slabs?
Oh, yeah. It's one of my specialties.
There you go. And Terry Brown says, would you guys buy a card that you knew had been prepped? Well, I mean, prepped can be as simple as blowing dust off of it. So yes, I wouldn't have a problem buying a card that I know had been prepped. I've had my cards. How many cards have you prepped for me ever, Steve? Like one or two?
That Gretzky card. Yeah.
I think two. I think you did one for me at a Mint Collective. And I think you did one for me at a Burbank card show.
Yeah.
And so those are mine that I had you prep. And yeah, I mean, as far as I know, most people who submit cards to grading are prepping them for grading. Like it's
a new category, and it's something that older collectors may have not thought to do, but there's money on the line, there's a need for it, right? And it's so we've created products and services for it.
And then Mike Petty says the semantics of cleaning don't matter. The grading companies obviously can't detect alterations or cleaning anyway. Have at it. What do you say to that, Steve? Can they?
I mean, I think there's some people that do a really bad job. And listen, it's like anything. It can be an art form, and I think there's people that do a sloppy job, and I think they get caught. You know, and listen, you don't want to be a cheater, right? You never win cheating. So,
yeah, because eventually, especially in this hobby, you're going to get caught.
Yeah,
pretty much, right? Okay, and then a couple more comments here. David Chow says, I think PSA has an agreement to go to IPO before a certain date with their investors, so they are pressured to increase business, increase revenue. Ziggy disagrees. Why go public? They are printing money in answer to no one. For the exit, for the liquidity. That's exactly. Yeah, they're totally going to go public. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
That took a public prior. You know, I think it's just part of the goal. Yeah,
I think that's my feeling. That's just my opinion. I could be right or I could be wrong easily, but I think so. And
I share the same opinion.
And when I looked at the survey, or I watched the video on the survey, and a lot of these questions that were little, upcharges on various services that they're offering, I just thought to myself, like, if they're going to show the investment bankers their volume of business, and then they're going to show them what their average order price is, and then they're going to show them what the average order price would move to based on results of this survey, what percentage of people would buy the sleeve for $2, would pay the $3 to have it prepared, and there was something else they were offering for like $7 or $8 as well. Do you remember what was that?
High resolution images,
imaging,
and the grader notes, and right. I thought they were all kind of silly,
but those as well, right? But $8 here, 2 there, and 3 there, times 1 million cards a month. Yep. I mean, that's juicy for the investment bankers to up the price of the IPO, to put more money in the current shareholders' pockets. And listen, like, I remember when it was first announced that Nat Turner was taking over PSA, I was super excited because he was a collector just like me and everybody else, except with more zeros in his bank account than me and everybody else. As you know, so I'm told. I've never seen his bank account. I don't know what the guy's got really, but I was excited. We got a collector at the helm. But then you realize that, sure, he's a collector, but he's also a businessman, and he's not the only guy making decisions there, right? He does have investors and a board that he's got to talk to and deal with. So, I mean, to me, the IPO is happening. It's going to happen. I mean, if I had to bet, I'd give 9-1 odds on it, sort of thing. Like I think it's happening. So. Joe, anything to jump in with on this last little bit here?
I just was going to say, back when we were talking about would I ever, get a card prepped. I mean, I have to prep my cards because I live a block from the ocean in foggy Santa Cruz. And if cards are in my possession, there's going to be a film on them. So I have to wipe them down with a microfiber before I send them anywhere, or they're kind of gunky. It's just the way the environment is. I have a dehumidifier. It fills up, every 2 or 3 days. It's just very moist here.
Yeah. Well, you're on the ocean, so makes sense. And that's why the question about would you guys buy a card that's been prepped? I mean, I think like I almost would prefer it, but raw, yes. If not, I would just, blow the dust off the card myself,
Listen, these cards are not like perfect coming out of the pack anyway. There's smudges, dust, fingerprints on them, flakes on them coming straight out of the pack. So it's it's just part of the modern hobby.
Exactly. Jeff's card journey wants to know, are you going to be at the National for evaluation, Steve?
I will be. We'll be doing private sessions at the Hyatt, and then we'll be a part of the SoCo soccer show in the evening.
Will you be set up at National inside the
Inside the National? No, I'll be going around the National, but I'll be set up at the Hyatt.
Lapper, well, what's up, Lapper? Says charge for graders, notes, and cleaning, and then just slap a 10 on it so they don't have to clean it or make notes. I mean, that's something. What's up, Richie Barone, the mayor of Canada? What's going on, Rich? My guy, good to see you, buddy. I like this from Dan. Joe with a low-key flex, living a block from the ocean. Yes, he does, Bob Boozle. I live a block from a pig farm. Thank you, City Council. Mookie Chilson has joined us, everybody. Wait, 3 commenters get to be kings. Petty, does that make you Frank in essence or mirror? I don't really, there's something going on in the chat today that must be very new that I'm not really aware of. Okay, guys, listen, Leighton Sheldon has joined us in the back room. We're going to bring him on. Let him join the conversation. We'll get some of his thoughts. Leighton, are you good to join? What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. I know you know Joe because you're on with him a lot. Do you know Mr. Minty? Do you know Steve?
I do, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing, buddy?
We have a mutual friend named Justin. A little shout out to him. I'm sure he'll be thrilled with that, Steve.
Stuck on pucks.
Stuck
on. That's right. Yeah, Justin's a great guy. I walked the National with him last year for a little bit. Always a nice guy, Justin. Okay, so Leighton, we've been, I don't know what you've heard so far, but we've been talking a bit about, well, so far about the possibility that PSA starts cleaning cards for its customers upon submission. If they check that box and want to pay $3 to have the card air blasted or microfibered or whatever it is that they're offering to do. Have you caught wind of this survey, and what were your thoughts if so?
What I've caught wind of is the fact that Joe lives by the ocean.
That's the most important thing here tonight, everybody.
In a 400 square foot studio, by the way. So
listen, I used to live in the West Village, and I think I maybe had you beat by 50 feet. I lived in like a 450 square foot studio. It was hysterical. It was like
the opposite of flexing going on right now, guys. The anti-flex. But seriously, Leighton, are you did you catch wind of it? What were your thoughts when you heard that PSA was potentially going to offer cleaning of cards?
You know, it's funny, the way that I found out, Jeremy, I think was from Neo through YouTube.
That's how I found out.
I listen to a lot of hobby content through YouTube, meaning even though sometimes I watch it, I generally just listen. And I love his, the way he talks about it, and he's like, boys and girls, we have something salacious here today, something like that. And he kind of got right into it. And so, I haven't read any of the stuff put out by PSA. I certainly listened to the video by Neo. I caught just a couple minutes of you gentlemen talking before I joined. So, candidly, I haven't really had much time to think about it, but it does make me kind of laugh of like, all right, so, one of the services is kind of like a car wash, right? You go to the car wash, and you just simply want my car to be washed. And, my son's tugging at me. And meanwhile, I think I've just asked for, in other words, get your card graded. They're like, oh, no, would you like it blow dried? I'm like, no, you don't want an air freshener. No, that's okay. Do you want something no, how about the wheels? And so at the end of the day, I guess what I'm getting to is I'm not shocked from the macro standpoint of, and Jeremy, you've alluded to this just a minute ago, PSA is a business for profit. And so much so that collectors, their parent company, is likely to go public. So I guess where I'm focused is, I think it would be fun. We can certainly debate this till we're blue in the face. I'd like to talk about what other services are going to be coming out. In addition to this, that might be, I would say, advantageous to us all versus debate this till we're blue in the face. But in terms of my quick synopsis is I don't have one. I didn't really spend a lot of time on it. I'm very well aware of certainly at least the news. And I'm kind of interested to discuss it with you all. But I don't know that I'll be taking my cards to the car wash, I guess.
Cards to the car. Well, you're talking about the other services. They're offering high-res imaging, or their survey asked if people would be interested in high-res imaging for $8, if you'd be interested in a PSA branded sleeve for your slab for $1.90 for $2. Those are the things that I'm aware of. What stuck out to you that you were curious about or you want to talk about in terms of these other services that you just mentioned?
Oh, sure. So I think a number of months ago, Nat was on with Neo, And then as far as I believe some of the questions that PSA was asking, I'm really interested in things surrounding data. So for example, I believe as a collector, and to be fair, maybe as a dealer as well, PSA, and I heard Nat say this himself, PSA kind of has the world's biggest card show every day because they know what's being submitted. So if you could sign up for a service, would you be interested to know the next time, for example, Ennio Pichi hockey card grades gem mint from 1985 and earlier? I know I'd like to be, even if I didn't buy it, I think that would be super cool to know. So I think there's a lot of things coming down the pipe line as far as that goes. And obviously Nat, for example, is more interested in PMGs, but there's so many other Venezuelan. I mean, like the list goes on and on. What if you want to know every time a 1952 Topps 9 number got submitted in a group of 10 or more? I mean, like there's so many fun questions and so many different ways to go with the data. I think PSA is going to figure that out quickly, and it seems like they have. And I think that there's going to be a lot of other services surrounding data in the future that are going to be exciting for the hobby as a whole.
Interesting. I didn't really think about the data part of it, but I don't really have any response to that. Steve, Joe, any response to the data piece of it, or Leighton, can you even build on what you're thinking and what you find interesting about that?
Oh, sure. So I guess all in all, PSA is looking to create less friction and more liquidity. And at the end of the day, it's almost like a little bit of competition to me as the owner of Just Collect. At the same time, I do think, what was that old commercial with that clothing company? You know, like an educated consumer is our best customer. I think that a lack of education in our hobby in general is not a good thing. So if we can get people in a situation where they understand a little bit better as to what's going on, and less people lose and more people win, I don't just mean monetarily, but as a collector, right? I hate when people find my company and they're like, oh, I have these cards I got graded by Beckett 11 years ago. I'm like, why did you grade a 77 Topps Pete Rose in a 4? Oh, I don't know. I just thought it was vintage and it would be worth a lot more money. And I'm like, they show me their bill of $3,462. And so kind of to get back to what Steve does with Mr. Minty, there's absolutely going to be not just a need for those types of services, but talking about the data, Jeremy, I'm saying like we could just riff for the next hour and think about all the fun things as a hockey collector, Jeremy, right? Or as an autograph collector chasing the 57, 69, and 86 Fleer basketball sets. I'd like to know when they have an autograph card that comes in that's slab that I might need for my set. And I don't want to do all that work of tracking them down. So there's a lot of different ways to go that could be really fun for the end user, and PSA will be able to capitalize on it financially.
That makes a lot of sense to me, how you describe that. And basically what I'm hearing there, Leighton, is that they could be everything to everybody, really. I mean, they are partnered with eBay already, so that's good. That's additional eyeballs and customer acquisition and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, you don't really need, you don't need to hold your cards anymore. That's the part of that whole ecosystem, this potential PSA ecosystem that is not for me. I like to have my cards with me. I want to touch, feel, look at, and enjoy my cards physically, tangibly. But now you can just, like you said, you can buy cards, have them grade them, have them sell them. They were one of the questions had to do with also maybe trading or something. Would you want to do some trades? It's kind of like taking every great and even not so great business idea that the hobbypreneurs out there have come up with and saying, well, why don't we just do all of them in our ecosystem? They want to do what you're doing, Leighton. They want to do what Steve's doing with prepping cards. They want to do what marketplaces are doing, selling them. They want to do what some of these trading platforms are doing, trading. And listen, I'm not criticizing. I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And they have the attention. They have the market already. It's like so Ziggy right here says, would you buy collectors stock at IPO? Heck yes, I would. Yeah. Heck yes, I would. I don't have to love their grading, consistency. I don't have to love their grading standards. I don't have to love their slab, which I don't mind. I don't have to love anything about what they do, but to buy their stock because they've got the hobby by the cajon. You know what? They've got the hobby right where they want them, because the hobby drinks the Kool-Aid consistently, and that's okay. Like that's where the hobby's at. So yes, I certainly would. It says more about what I think. Oh man, do I want to say this? It says more about what I think about the general population of the hobby than what I do about PSA or collectors. The fact that, yes, of course I would buy their stock. I think it's going to be a moneymaker at the end of the day. So just some thoughts there. Who wants to follow that up?
Oh, I want to jump in here and just say that you're right on everything, Jeremy. But to be very clear, though, the ungraded, I can't speak for modern, but the ungraded vintage collecting portion of the hobby is alive and well. And the reason I know this is because I just ran another batch of auctions on eBay. It was a group of 1,000 or 1,200 cards. We do this. We used to do it annually. Now we're doing it quarterly. It seems like we're going to do it monthly. And like 98% of the cards sell. The average selling price is probably $16. And some people buy one card, Jeremy. There's some people who buy 17 cards. And they look at, and this is what's crazy, the way that we talk about eye appeal. Is this a nice 3? Guy got a 67 tops high number, Tommy John, from us. I think we advertised it as X. Sold for $100, which is, pretty decent money. And he was like, it's got a wrinkle. Whatever you want to do, bud. You want to return it. You want to get a refund, partial refund. Meaning, Jeremy, they're taking their cards just as seriously as us. Just because it's not in a slab or in a plastic tomb, it doesn't matter. And for me, I find a lot of comfort in that, because PSA can continue to do whatever they're going to do. But I really do believe this. They're not out to get anyone. They're out to get your money. That's for sure, right? They're for profit. But they're trying to create less friction or more cool things for you to be able to do as far as trading cards go. And then I want to add this, and then I'll take a break. So I've never been a proponent, Jeremy, as a collector, of storing my cards off-site, okay? And there's a lot of reasons. I don't need to share them with you. They're pretty obvious. But I will tell you, I had a transaction just happen this week. For the first time, I might be willing to take, I'm just making this up, 100 valuable cards that I'm willing to sell, send them to the PSA, or to be fair, another vault, because there's like 11 of them, right? And the mistake or the error that just happened wouldn't have made my customer on the back end of this transaction really nervous. So we just sold a 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie, not super high grade, but for real money, it was graded. And the guy said, "Oh, I didn't realize you're going to do signature required. My father was out mowing the lawn." First of all, why is your elderly dad mowing the lawn? But besides that, do you think they were going to ship a 5-figure card just, hey, put it in the mailbox in the front porch and cross your fingers, hope for the best, and do one of these, however it goes? So my point is that there's a lot of different things going on in the hobby, Jeremy. And for me personally, for the first time, I've thought about using a vault. I don't think it's crazy that PSA is trying to ask 27 different questions, because they might only do 5 of the services. But make no mistake, they're going to have 27 more questions in a month, in 6 months, because they got really smart people running the organization, and they're going to try to go public.
Yeah. No, fair. I like all those comments that you mentioned. Steve, you got anything you want to jump in with, respond to any of that?
Yeah, I've like many of the comments in on all the blogs and stuff. These are great services to add, but I think core customers just want them to speed up their core business before doing anything else.
Yeah, you hear that so often from the hobby on so many different service offerings in our hobby. And I think the response to some of that is that, they're not taking resources away from one thing to do something else. The people doing the other thing aren't able to do that other thing. Maybe there's, they don't have the physical space. There's other resources that are in short supply that just don't measure up. What I mean is you can't cram 5 people into 2 workstations if that's all you have. So there's other things that have to go on in order to accommodate, you know, you want to take people from marketing and put them into grading. That's probably not going to work, right? You want to take people from working the slabbing machine or the printing the label machines and get them into grading, or vice versa. Now you're just being inefficient. You're adding to the problem versus exacerbating it, or versus reducing it. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Steve, and I think people often default to that. Like, I don't care, don't do any of this, just get the cards graded faster. I don't think that's the trade-off. And I know I think what you're saying, Steve, I have a feeling you recognize what I'm saying as well right now. Oh, yeah. But I don't think that it's one or the other. I just don't think that that's how these businesses are run, and many businesses are run. So just to put that out there, Joe, you want to hop on with anything before we go to some comments?
Nothing other than I'm just curious if Steve possibly has his Kelly Slater Astro Boys gold card, because if he does, I am jealous of his collection. That is a very important card for. Talk about a GOAT, 11-time champion. But anyway, that's a flex. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
All right, let's do some comments, fellas. Let's do some comments. Lucky K said the difference is if you put your car through a car wash and it's not to your liking, they will run it through again for free. PSA will just charge you full price again. Yeah, that's true. The professor says, does the panel have an opinion on why vintage cards develop creases? Yeah, handling. Cards develop creases from handling. I don't think they just get creased on their own from sitting in a box. So that's how, professor. I mean, if anything to add there, I'm expecting 3 of these. Okay. Vintage card collector says, nothing wrong with offering additional services. Pass if you don't like them. Totally agree with that. Yeah, card. Dan says, will PSA grade their stock certificates? Probably. Of course they will. That's like, that should be a free service. If you're going to invest in our company, we'll slab your certificates for you. I think that's a great idea. And that would actually incentivize more stock purchases, I would think, or at least the delivery of certificates. Mark Santucci says, PSA makes so many mistakes. Look at all the collectors I watch and talk about their cards. Yeah. The one thing I'll say about that, Mark, is that I think collectors overestimate the condition of their cards and don't have the trained eye that at least the senior graders at PSA do have. So I take this comment with a bit of a grain of salt. However, there are certainly cases where cards are wrongly graded. They're just not graded correctly. And we know that because PSA admits to it and fixes these problems when the opportunity is brought to their attention. So in certain cases where the customer is correct, they will fix that. Lapper here said, it was mentioned you could make a standing offer on a card, mentioned by PSA, he's saying, I think maybe in the survey or something, where if the desired card and grade pop, the person who graded would be offered the standing offer, sort of a bounty of sort. Great idea. So yeah, I remember hearing about that. And I think that is what Leighton was saying about removing friction. It is just making the ecosystem more efficient. And I think that's a wonderful innovation right there. If innovation is the right word, but that's a wonderful evolution of their overall suite of products to just create more transaction velocity in their ecosystem. Rich Brown says, PSA buy and sell vault. Yes, Rich, they have a vault, and that's pretty much what we're talking about there. Ziggy No says, would you rather have PSA or Fanatics pre-IPO shares? Well, I mean, I know where I stand on that. I know which ones I think I'd rather have. You want to answer that, Steve?
I've inquired about both. I can't get both. I'm leaning towards Fanatics.
Yeah, you can't get these, right? These are private companies, privately held, that kind of thing. Leighton, any thoughts from you on that?
So if I get a stock certificate, is it going to be signed respectively by Ruben and Nat? Ooh. And if they are, that would play into my decision.
Yes, it would. Give me one of each then, right? Go on. Yeah, give me one of each. Would you? Yeah. So pre-IPO, I mean, I don't think you can't just buy those, right? Those are, again, private companies. So I think for me, I would rather have shares of the collectors company versus Fanatics, simply because I am more interested in the hobby versus apparel and all that. And maybe that's the wrong decision. Maybe I should diversify and go with Fanatics. So I'm just gonna answer this question with a yes. I'll take a bit of both then.
It's a great question.
Let's go. Joe, do you want to opine on that? Which pre-shares would you rather have, Fanatics or collectors?
50-50.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Jordan says, this is my church. Welcome to the show. Let's go, Jordan. Terry Brown said collectors going public would increase the risk of regulation, in my opinion. Well, they were public for quite some time. They only recently went private, like 4 years ago when Nat and his group took over. And is that a good or a bad thing if it goes? First of all, going public means that they are regulated now. Like, collectors becomes regulated. They need to answer to more than just their board of directors and shareholders. Now they need to answer to the public. So they become regulated. I don't know if it has any impact on the rest of the hobby. Maybe it does, Terry. Good call out there. Lucky K says, question for Steve, since you evaluate many cards before sending to PSA, do you think the grading is actually stricter since they changed the standard verbiage to 55-45 centering for a PSA 10 versus 60-40? Steve?
Great question. I've always leaned toward 55-45. Again, a lot of this has to do with Pokemon and TCG, where the releases were quite off-centered and like right on that cusp. It was needed to make sure they're not giving out 10s to every single TCG card, which were clearly off-centered, in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for that. And then Ziggy calls out, we haven't talked about this yet, that Burbank Sports Cards just had their grand opening. Saw a bunch of that on Instagram, YouTube. And PSA has their first retail location inside Burbank Sports Cards. Thoughts on that? Let's go around the horn on this one. Leighton, why don't we start with you? What do you think about that? And I know you have a retail location as well. Would you like to have a PSA counter inside your store?
Well, of course. I buy a lot of vintage cards. I would imagine I get a decent rate on grading. And I think that would be amazing for business. But joking aside, congratulations to Rob and his team. Place looks unbelievable, like the Disneyland of baseball card stores. And if you're in that area or even remotely close, I certainly encourage you to go check it out. I think PSA is testing it. If it works out well, I would imagine it's not going to be their only location inside a card store.
How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I was there. I was there Thursday night putting in product. There was a little pre-party. Guys from Fanatics, Chris Carlin, who's who was there. Amazing store. It is bigger than any store that I've been to in the hobby. You could see the front. You didn't see the massive warehouse in the back. They did an incredible job. The amount of singles, amount of wax that was there is incredible. The wall of like quarter cards that's Rob's lifeblood is just incredible. And the PSA grading line was out the door. It was so long, and it's just creating less friction, which PSA wants. Trust is such a big factor in shipping your cards to PSA. So PSA is going to more shows, opening more shops, things like this to make the transaction with less friction.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. Joe, I mean, you've been to Burbank Sports Cards. What about you? And you get cards graded here and there. Would you drop off cards at? Would you go to Burbank Sports Cards, drop off cards at PSA, shop the store, and kind of check off a whole bunch of boxes on your hobby to-do list in one stop?
I would, and I will. I mean, it's kind of bringing a show-like atmosphere to a retail store. Like Steve said, reducing friction, and I'm a worrywart, dropping in my precious cardboard, my cards. I'd much rather at least one leg of the journey be giving it directly in hand. And I'm not sure. They may be allowing for pickup as well. Do you know if they're picking up there at the store as well? So in both forward and backwards, you're getting a direct handoff.
I think that piece is something that Rob probably asked for if he didn't get it, the ability for customers to pick up, because that's that's going to double the visits of customers into the store, which is only good for their revenue. Now, I was just thinking, because I haven't been to Burbank at the new location. I was at the old location several times, not at this new one that just opened. And I remember when Cards HQ opened up in Atlanta, Jeff Wilson, the sports card investors store, that it seemed to be like the biggest and best card shop in all the land. You know, that was what it appeared to be from all the content that you could have seen when he rolled that out. And I'm just kind of wondering if Rob saw that and said, well, now we got to one up that. We got to one up Cards HQ. And Steve, you've been to the new Burbank. Have you been to Cards HQ?
Oh yeah. And I'm blessed that both shops carry my product.
And let me ask you straight out, which one's better? Oh, they're both your customers.
They're both my customers.
Which
by square foot, Burbank is larger. Okay. Jeff has these amazing breaker stations there where you can watch them break live. You can also watch them film content live. There's also a little more things for kids at Cards HQ, where they can buy a box. They have these tables to make them look like breakers, and they can set up their phone with, and stream with their friends and watch their friends can watch them open up cards, which is pretty cool. So I think Cards HQ is a little more kid friendly, where Burbank is just all about the cards, and it's wonderful.
Appreciate it. Well, hey, congrats on having your products on the shelves of both of those stores. I mean, those are two, destination kind of bucket list stores for people who travel and want to go to an LCS wherever they go. I think those two are probably the two biggest out there. And again, I don't know that for sure, but I want to go to both. I want to see both with my own two eyes for sure. Okay, guys, before we're going to bring Mikey Singer on shortly. Steve, you're going to leave us shortly. I want to say thank you so much for joining. But before we do that, I want to go back to Leighton for a sec. And Leighton, I just want to ask you, outside of everything we've talked about so far, the Vintage Spotlight segment of the show, what's on your mind vintage-wise, Leighton? What's going on in the hobby from a vintage perspective? Something just popped into my mind, which is this new Eye Appeal Inc. service website that is launching like a month from now. Their website just went live. That is a vintage centric sort of new thing. I don't know if people are aware of it, but if you go to Instagram, it's EYE Appeal Inc. is the new account, and it's run by Matty C Collection, and he's rolling out a service to have people kind of vote on the eye appeal of cards as an alternative to traditional grading, or maybe not. Maybe it's not an alternative. It's a complement to traditional grading, because it's for cards that are already graded. How do you think they are from an eye appeal perspective? And so that came to mind, Leighton. For me, I have a feeling you are aware of that by now. I've probably seen you like one of the posts or something like that. But what are your thoughts on that, Leighton, and anything else vintage-wise that you'd like to bring to the discussion?
Sure. I think it's prudent to discuss it. Matty was on my podcast recently, and I forgot exactly. I think it's called like a panel of, I don't know if it's experts or something like that, but I'm going to be involved with it, from that end. And I really like what he's doing, because he's doing it from a passion project that he believes wholeheartedly is important for the hobby. And the reason why I support it is because, as far as the education goes, if you're new to the space, it's going to be a little overwhelming, but it clearly is trying to help people. It is clearly trying to help people discern if, for example, you're trying to go out and buy an expensive Mickey Mantle card, or for that matter, maybe a 1961 Topps Mick was always your card, and your budget allows it free. That's what's cool about this site. It's not going to snub its nose Like, you know what? You only want VG cards? No, get out of here. It's for everybody. And just because you had asked before that, I think it's relevant to discuss it now. I saw it discussed the other day on social. I forgot who brought it up, but I absolutely think there's going to come a point with eye appeal, meaning eye appeal desirability, but also the cost that comes with, for example, finding a really nice 3 for the grade. There might come a point sooner than we think that, let's just say it's a really sharp 3 with centering issues, but yet the corners are nice and there is no creasing. Well, at some point, let's just say this card is an average $300 3 and someone paid $475 for it in a 3 because it had great eye appeal. Well, what if the lesser 3 starts going for $260, meaning like it's almost double for the nicer eye appeal? So I would almost ask the audience, at what point does the eye appeal hunt become too expensive for the average collector? And you're going to kind of reset and say, you know, I'm okay with just getting a really nice baseball card. It may not be perfect. It may not be centered. It might have a crease, a wrinkle. It might have some discoloration. Because I can tell you, when I was a kid, even though I did the best I could with the eye that I had, I mean, I really wanted a Robin Yount rookie. And if it wasn't perfect, keep in mind, there was no grading. There was, you know, no internet, all that good stuff. And so I just kind of wanted it, of course. And I'm curious what everyone else thinks, not just on the panel here, but also in the audience, as far as the new IPO project. Super great. But how does that tie into the question I'm asking? At what point does it become too expensive for you to acquire that really nice example for the grade? And you kind of reset your budget and say, you know, I'm just happy with the average looking, no pun intended here, Joe, average looking Joe card.
And you know, to that I kind of say, so what's the difference between, as you said, at what point does it get too expensive for the nice IPL card? Well, at what point does it get too expensive for the highly graded card? Like, why is technical grade more important than eye appeal? Why is eye appeal more important than technical grade to some people? And then your other comment, Leighton, and that's not pushing back. That's just, you know, I'm just building out the discussion. But the other thought was, you know, like, I'm going to go to my personal 1948 or 9 Leaf Jackie Robinson, which is a PSA 6. It's got beautiful corners, edges, registration, and color, but it is severely off center. It's like 85-15, maybe even 90-10. I love the damn thing though, Leighton. I love it. Like, I don't want to get into a perfectly centered PSA 4 at the expense of my way off center PSA 6. I've grown to love it. So I think that, I mean, certain cards with high appeal are going to sell for a lot more money than they would for, you know, versus the average card in that grade holder. But at the same time, I don't think that people are going to just get away from buying nice looking 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 1s, 2s, anything else if they are missing the centering, which seems to be the cornerstone of eye appeal. Although to me, registration is right up there as important, if not more important. So I don't know, just a couple additional comments on that. Joe, do you have any thoughts?
I like that Leighton's asking that question. You know, the pendulum always swings in these, you know, trends that go in one direction too hard. And personally, you know, it really, you know, I think, I guess I'm kind of struck by the idea that there is anyone that could ultimately measure eye appeal in any kind of objective way. I mean, the whole idea is eye appeal is it's your eye, right? And I think different people have different tolerances, and every card is different and every issue is different. So if you're dealing with a card that's frequently, you know, off center or frequently has, you know, fraying, I mean, you're going to take that into account as to what you'll put up with or what you might find exceptional or acceptable about an issue. So that's one of the beautiful things about the, you know, the world of collecting is it's so personal and in some moments subjective. I mean, I think there's overlaps for us. We would probably be able to determine eye appeal, but you've done those studies, Jay Lee, on your shows before, where you kind of looked at two that essentially, you know, which has more eye appeal, and it's not always, people don't always choose the same card. So I guess, I like that Leighton's asking the question, because I do think it just highlights the idea that it is ultimately subjective, and you're going to maybe fall in love with a certain card just because you do, and it works with your aesthetics more than someone else's.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. Eye appeal is one thing, and it is subjective, as I think Yelia put that in the chat a little bit earlier as well. Right here, eye appeal is subjective. Yelia Williams, yes, definitely agree with that. I mean, I think there are a few kind of generally accepted standards for eye appeal, like centering. And maybe even where. Steve, what do you want to say? And then we're gonna do a guest swap. But go ahead, Steve, please.
Oh yeah, I'm a complete card snob, so I want that thing centered in beautiful color first, and it could have round corners and frayed edges as long as it's centered and it's pretty. There are some technical grading aspects to eye appeal, especially in modern cards, where you could have a print line going across. And it may still get a 10, but if it goes across the face, that affects eye appeal because it's going across the main image of the card. And generally, those like Bowman first drafts will 9 if there's a print line across the face. So that's a example in modern. And I know we talk about eye appeal for vintage, but it affects modern cards as well.
All right, awesome. Okay, Steve, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. We'll get you back. We'll get you back again, dude. I think we could have gotten a lot more out of you tonight, so we'll do that another time. Thank you,
everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Gary, for canceling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Gary. By the way, I had announced that Gary V was going to be on tonight. We are rescheduling Gary V. He had a conflict arise, so he'll be back. We're going to reschedule with him. So yes, and that allowed Steve to come on. So perfect. All right, Steve. Thanks, you,
guys. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Steve. All right. Okay. Leighton, you stick around. We're going to bring Mikey Singer on now to we're going to get a little bit hyped for the Edmonton Expo that I will be at next week. So Mikey, you get to join. All right, guys, Mikey is back. You were on with us recently. We talked a bit about the Montreal show. That was last week. Edmonton is next week. I'm pumped. I'm getting myself ready. I'm getting all my things organized because I can actually drive to that show and take more with me. So I'm pumped. Mikey, how are things coming together for the Edmonton Expo next weekend?
It's looking great. As you know, you're a big part of the schedule. I've got you all over the place doing Q&As with a bunch of the players that are coming in. And the show is full. It's the fourth year that we've done the Edmonton Expo. You were there since day one. That show is really exciting. The fact that the Oilers are obviously in the Stanley Cup Finals and hopefully going to win it obviously helps the show overall. Collectors are going to be buzzing around there. I expect a really good turnout again. It'll be great to see some of our great guests. There's been a lot of talk about grading and eye appeal and checking your cards out. Obviously, you had Mr. Minty and his specialty, which is checking your cards out, cleaning your cards, prepping them for grading. We have a couple companies like that there, like Choose Your Grading. You can also sub through ComC and a couple of our other exhibitors. We've got great local exhibitors too, like West and Wayne's Sports Cards, both local icons in the Edmonton community. So we're pumped.
Good, man. Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to sitting on the stage with a few of the athlete signers and doing some Q&A with them. So appreciate that. And yeah, Edmonton's a great market, guys. If you pay attention to this show or the hobby, you know that the Toronto Expo, it's the second biggest show in the world, only behind the National. And it just grows and grows and grows. The Edmonton show it's kind of like a satellite expo in a way. But the point I want to make, guys, is that the Edmonton market is the second best market, I believe, in Canada to Toronto. Toronto is number one. Some people might say, what about Montreal? I'm going to say no. Edmonton is the second best market, in my opinion. I've done shows in all of these cities. And it's only once a year. The Montreal show is twice a year. Edmonton's once a year. And I cannot wait for it, Mikey. So yeah. Joe, have you ever been up to Edmonton?
No, I need to go. I need to go. Yeah.
How about you, Leighton? Have you ever been? You've been to the expo in Toronto. Have you ever made your way to any other shows in Canada?
No, but I've been to London, Ontario with long-haired Larry years ago. We did a buy show.
Nice. Okay, right on. Well, it's the Edmonton show is a great show. If you're in the area, you want to come by, come to the Edmonton show, guys. I know it's listen, for me, it's a 3-hour drive. It's not like it's not like we're all congregating in a hub city like Denver or Chicago in the United States, but it's still a really good time. And Mikey, I'm excited for it. Anything else you want to mention about the show? Anything else exciting, or you just want to stick around and join some conversation with us now?
Well, we'll continue the conversation, but we're running a contest right now. Obviously, I keep saying obviously, but the Oilers are in the Stanley Cup Finals. The game is going to be played on Saturday or Friday, Saturday of the show. We're running a contest for a pair of tickets, so it's a great time to enter. There's a bunch of different ways to enter, but I encourage everyone to do it and get yourself a free pair of tickets on Steve.
Right on. Good stuff. Yeah, free pair of tickets. And I'm going to, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be giving away a couple pairs of tickets as well. Follow my Instagram for that, guys. I appreciate it. I want to thank Let's Go Jordan for throwing $20 at us here. Thank you so much for that. LGJ, gratefully appreciate that one. Okay, before we do anything else, I want to do a couple more comments, guys, and then I have a topic, and then we're gonna, Leighton, say thank you to you, and we're gonna bring Tony on. But first, Dan's Vintage says Google tells me Eye Appeal Inc. is a defunct eye doctor in Brooklyn. Okay, Stuke says, does Eye Appeal have 1 to 10 rating like grading? I can tell you from what I've seen, no, it does not, Stukes. It does not have a 1 to 10. Well, at least not on Eye Appeal Inc. Tony says exactly, Leighton, will come down to value versus cost and budget for Eye Appeal versus grade. Just like any purchase decision that we're making. I think that's exactly right.
Jeremy, I want to jump in, though. I want to add, I was remiss to not get to say this when Steve was on, but one of the things I found fantastic when I was chatting with Maddie is that, Maddie's from like the film world, right? So he explained it to me like this, and I think it's a great analogy, is that, I don't use Rotten Tomatoes very much, but I'm familiar with it. And so what he's suggesting, meaning Maddie, is that, and he's right, how many graders possibly look at your card that get graded? Maybe it's a couple if you're lucky. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be not only this wonderful strength in numbers when you put your card on this website, because remember, it doesn't have to be for sale. You're just garnering the opinion. And although it's going to be subjective, there is strength in numbers. And so it's all about education. So let's say you're someone with means and you don't necessarily want to just get the opinion of an executive at an auction house or yours truly. You want to get the masses. Well, there's really no better way to do it and no other way that I can think of. And I think that's what's so wonderful about this new service. And as someone just alluded to in the comments, yes, it's going to be a function of the proposition of the cost and the eye appeal, but yet you don't have to decide this now on your own. You could put out a card and ask, whether it be dozens, hundreds, I'm sure Maddie's hoping for tens of thousands and it sweeps the world. But I just know as a fellow card nerd and snob, I respect the other opinions of people in the community. And I think that's what's going to be brought to the forefront, as opposed to, and no disrespect to PSA or SGC or any other grading company, that's the grading company standing behind the grade. But when you think about how many people truly looked at your card, it's not that many.
Yeah.
So it is nice to feel like, you know what, my proverbial hobby buddies have looked at it and they've applied. And I forgot how Maddie said it's going to work, but there's like a godlike, and there's all these different terminology. You'll have to figure it out from the site, but I encourage you to check it out. I think it's going to be super cool.
I think it'll be super cool too. And I think you're exactly right. It's another opinion on a card, or the aggregate of hopefully thousands of opinions to give you an idea of how the general hobby would respond to your card if you were to maybe ever put it for sale. Now you know what the consensus sort of is thinking about the card. Stukes makes a great comment. He says, budget appeal is the number one appeal for me. Mookie Chilson said, Leighton's chat with Maddie, he was great episode. I watched it too, Leighton, by the way. Great job. I enjoyed the episode with Maddie as well. It was just a pleasure to listen to. Carvin Chung says, why can't people buy lower grades first and then upgrade it when they decide they want the card in the collection? I think that makes sense to me, Carvin. The only thing I would say is that, like, what do we mean by upgrading? If we mean simply upgrading the PSA set of grades from a 2 to a 3, a 3 to a 4, or upgrading how much you love the card yourself, because you can upgrade by going from a 6 to a 5 or a 6 to a 4. There are ways to do that as well. It might not seem reasonable to people, but I feel you can upgrade you can upgrade your card by downgrading your card as far as the slab that it is in. Bob Boozle says, when is Jeremy launching Lee Friends? That's all you guys. This is Lee Friends Live. Lee Friends Live right now, Bob Boozle. Great comment, buddy. Appreciate that one. Carvin, still never been to Alberta. You got to get up to got to come. Well, first of all, Carv, come to Calgary. We'll have you over for dinner. You can stay here at the house, and then we'll drive to the Edmonton show. You are more than invited. And then finally, Ziggy No says, we haven't talked about PSA and backyard breaks at all. Well, we touched on it a little bit, but again, he's talking about the collaboration. Apparently, Backyard Breaks was at the PSA offices doing a break together, and the controversy there was really, why is PSA partnering with these guys who say stupid things about topics that they shouldn't be talking about with any audience. And I don't really know what to say about that. I think it was a misstep, and I don't know if they do it again, but I really have no idea. Or they just don't care what anybody thinks and sees out there as far as like the narrative, and they're just running their business as they see fit. I don't know. Does anybody want to comment at all on that? If not, that's okay too, because it's an awkward subject. Okay. With that, Leighton, any final comments?
No, I appreciate you having me on, Jeremy. It was a lot of fun. And the Nationals just a couple months away, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. But well, listen, we'll chat soon. We got to talk about some other things anyway. So I will talk to you soon, and I will see you at the National. But hopefully, I'll see you not next Saturday, because no show here next Saturday. I will be at the Edmonton Expo, but the weekend after, we will be back on the channel. So for your schedule, Leighton, you won't be hearing from me this week for next week. But thank you so much for joining.
Sounds good, everybody. See you soon.
Take care, bud.
You're not going to be doing a show live from the show?
I am not doing a show live from the show.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. Last time I tried that, it was a complete cluster. But
we made it happen though.
Wow.
We made it. People don't know the background, but it happened. It went off.
They know. People know the background when I was doing the Fanatics Collect premiere show, and I had no internet, and the hotel was not helpful whatsoever. And then management came and knocked on my door because I did get internet through you, Mikey. You saved the day. That was a lot of fun.
Listen, and if you need anything at this show to go live, we'll help you. But we are doing more stuff just about the show again. Like we're doing a lot of giveaways at these shows for kids. It's funny. Steve was talking about how sports card investors hobby HQ is really kid centric, and that's important to the hobby, important to the shows. We've seen a huge growth in that market. I don't know if you've noticed how many families are there, or how many 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds are walking around with huge cases of cards going table to table. Yeah. They're trying to sell. They're pretty good too. They know their numbers. They know the apps. There's a lot of information at their fingertips. So it'll be fun to see a lot more of that at the show again. Totally. Yeah. I noticed that in Toronto as well. A lot of younger people, and I'm seeing it online and everywhere. So I think the hobby's in a good position for all that. Mikey. All right, Mikey, I'm going to say thank you for joining. We're going to switch it up. It's great to see you. And I'm going to see you in a few days, buddy. It's going to be hanging out very soon, my friend. Listen, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good to see everyone. And see you next week. Take care, pal. Talk soon. All right, guys. We still have, listen, this show is still going strong. We have 2 more guests, but we're going to go now, Joe, and we are going to bring on, I think a lot of you guys know this guy. A lot of you guys like this guy. I know him. I know I like him. I know I love him. Tony, TJ is online. Give me the thumbs up if you're ready to come on the show. Thumbs still up. 2 thumbs up. Guys, please welcome TJ
is online to Sports Cards Live. What's going on?
Hey, Joe. How's it going, Jeremy?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. How are you tonight?
Well, long day, but it's a great way to come on the show and close it out.
Well, it's
At least for me.
yeah, it is. It is good. It's good to have you, Tony. And just so you know, people know how you and I know each other at least, and it's really from a bit of the YouTube community, I would say. The nationals, we've seen each other at nationals, but I feel like I just feel like I know you. I feel like, you know, some people you just kind of know. And the Philly show, I think the Philly show might be where, was that the first time or this? I feel like I met you before the Philly show.
National YouTube get together, and then at the Philly show, then
At the Philly show.
over at
yeah.
Dave's table.
Over at
At Star Cards.
Dave Denzel, who is kind of one of the experts in the whole Star Cards world. Tony, have you met Joe before?
Nah, I watched him online, but haven't had a chance to talk to him yet.
Well, say hello.
Hey, Joe.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you, Tony. I'm very much a Reggie Jackson fan, so I sporting my Kelly Green Oakland shirt there, and fresh off listening to your wonderful interview with Iowa Dave about the proof card there, which also, as it turns out, was right when I was collecting as a kid. I started with roughly opening packs of 76 and then moved to 77. So I very much remember that Reggie card and the Yankees. And as an A's fan, I was crushed when he left in free agency, and, you know, Finley, I mean, between him and Campaneris and Catfish and all of that. But yeah, pleasure to meet you, Tony.
Yeah, here's the card for you.
Oh boy. Dang. Look at that. Oh, okay. It's in an SGC. I feel like I saw it in a different case at some point.
That's the only one. Nah, that's the
Why don't you
will not grade it.
Tony, so couple things. First of all, Joe mentioned your appearance on the Iowa Dave Shallow End podcast, which is, I think I can fairly say, my favorite podcast out there is Iowa Dave's right now. And you did a great job, Tony. I enjoyed the episode just like Joe did. And that it's not like this was last week. You did this episode 3 to 4 weeks ago, I'm feeling about. Is that right?
March, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so couple months ago
Yeah.
already. Great job. Definitely enjoyable. You just showed this Reggie Jackson card. For people who may not know, just tell us what that is, and then segue, if you don't mind, into a little bit about your hobby history.
Sure. So let me turn my brightness down so you can see it. So the 77 Topps Reggie Jackson card came out with Reggie wearing a Yankees uniform. However, in December of 76, Topps started making progressive proofs so they could test out the various colors of the card. And we didn't have that Yankees photo yet because Reggie just signed with the Yankees. So they picked the card when they picked a picture, and when Reggie was visiting Oakland as a member of Baltimore, and they went with that. And that's what they tested the various colors with, and the text on the front of the card. And then when it came time to issue the card, that's when they got an even older picture, and they airbrushed it like crazy. And that's what we see on the production version.
And as
So
far
it's
as
kinda-
sorry.
No, please.
I was going to say, as far as your hobby history goes, when did you start collecting? Where are you? When did you start collecting? And give us that kind of high level tour of your hobby history.
Sure. So I started collecting in 1984, buying Topps packs, and I live in Philadelphia, not too far from where all the teams play, and collected until about 1992. Then a lot of the inserts and getting into other things kind of took me away from the hobby, and then I got back in 2018, and then I, just 1 foot into the water, so to speak. And then I really got in 2023. I got, that's when I started buying more, when prices started going down a little bit from the COVID boom. Nothing like pre-COVID, obviously, but better than paying what I saw in 2021 and 2022.
And what do you collect nowadays?
Things that interest me. I try to stay away from mainstream items. So, like, if you like Reggie White, which I do, if you're a Tennessee fan, college, or an Eagles fan, or Packers, you may want to get one of the Reggie cards issued by Topps. But instead of going that for that, you can get the McDonald's card, which is actually cheaper than the Topps one. This one happens to be autographed. And some people may say this is oddball. I just think it's a little bit more interesting because you don't see it all the time. And same thing if you like Hank Aaron. Sure, you can get his 54 Topps card, but I kind of see that all the time. It's a beautiful card, but you may want to go with the Johnston Cookies card. And my father, growing up in Philadelphia, I didn't notice at the time, but I showed him this card here, and he actually does remember pulling one of these cards out of a box of cookies. When he saw it, his eye, and my dad's going to turn 80 next week, but he still remembers like it was yesterday some of those cards that he pulled back in the 1950s, just out of the background colors, the brightness. But in this particular occasion, he remembered eating cookies looking at the card of Henry Aaron, 1954. Nice. Yeah, so he was only 9 years old at the time.
And you also, and I know this from where I ran into you at the Philly show, you have a thing for star basketball cards. And let me ask before you respond, there's all the controversy around the status of the 1984 star Michael Jordan number 101. I'm not going to ask you your thoughts on that yet, although we can get to it. Do you collect all years of star? Do you only collect Michael Jordan? What is it about star basketball cards that drew you in?
I started collecting basketball cards in 1987. I didn't see 86 Flair, but I got into the second year Flair and watched a lot of basketball then. 76ers were actually a pretty good team in that part of the 80s. But I knew star cards existed even before the Beckett Price Guide came out. I just didn't see them anywhere. I don't even remember seeing advertisements for star cards. The only star cards I saw at the time just happened to be baseball cards, where they issued sets in the same type of poly bags, but they were in strips of 3 of Reggie Jackson and Mike Schmidt, players of that era, and Mattingly. And but something about the star cards. I love the photos, and then the Beckett magazine came out, and I saw prices for them. I'm like, wow, 86 Jordan is like $80 in that price guide, maybe, but the star Jordan was like $500 or $600, and I'm like, wow, this, I never even saw one. Then I went to a couple shows, and I didn't see star cards at the shows. Then I get out of the hobby in 92, get back in, and one of the first things I promised I would get myself would be the star set. So I started buying them piecemeal, and then last April, I came in contact with the person who happened to be a friend of my dad's, and he actually bought 3 star sets, 84, 85, 3 of them in the early 1990s, paid $1,000 a set, a really great deal. And he sold 2 of them years ago, and then he had this other one left, and he asked me if I would like to buy because he knows I'm a huge sports fan and my father, so I bought the star set from him. So that's how I got my 84, 85 star set, and some of them were actually already graded, like the 3 Jordans and the Elijah one. And then I put together the 85, 86 set, which is the last year star cards with the Ewing rookie card, and now I'm working on the first year star set, but I just took a step back. Need a breather because it's a lot of money, even for that first year set.
Okay, I have a few questions on this, and then I know Joe is going to probably have a few things too because he has interest in the star cards as well. So hang tight, Joe. 1 second. Okay, so first thing for you, Tony. You mentioned you like the photos on the star cards, and I think some of them are really cool.
Mm-hmm.
The photos are great. What about the quality of the card itself? The thickness of the paper, the quality of not the image that is being used, but the resolution of the image being used. How do they measure up? So the quality of the cardboard and the resolution of the images, how do they measure up to you compared to, I don't know, let's just pick out of maybe say 86 Flair, or I'm kidding, or another Topps cards of the era. How do they measure up for you that way?
So the photo quality, in my opinion, of the star cards versus 86, 87 flare, or 87, 88 flare, it's the same. It's the same exact quality in terms of photo. In fact, some of the a lot of the photos which weren't used by Star in 84, 85 were used by Flair in that first year set. I didn't know that, but if you take a look at the iconic Jordan Flair card, he's wearing a Chicago jersey. In that was that they stopped wearing in Jordan's rookie year, and that's the same type of cards that Star had. So it just happened to be an unused photograph that Star didn't, for some reason Star didn't pick, but the same photographer had it, and Flair just bought that rights to the photo to use. So photo quality, you get a loop, you're not going to see that much of a difference. If you scan it, pretty similar. Now, in terms of the card stock itself, that's when it really, you can see the difference. Flair does chip, but it's a thicker card stock. The 86, 87 Flair card stock is pretty similar to 85 Flair baseball, 86 Flair baseball, especially 86 Flair baseball. It has a nice little bit of heft to it, but it chips. The Star cards are even thinner. They chip even more, and they're fragile. So most of the cards were not graded. Only a handful were of the set I bought. So I took out the cards and I sent the Hall of Famers to PSA to get them graded. And so I had a chance to handle them. And they're very thin. I wouldn't say 1915 Cracker Jack thin, but they're pretty thin though. And they remind me a little bit of 85 Don Russ, how they were thinner than their counterparts in the 85 and 86 years.
Okay, appreciate that, and it's good to hear from someone who's handled these cards as well. So great. Now we have to touch on the rookie card question. I think I know your answer because you dropped a little nugget there. I don't know if people caught it, but you referred to the 85 Star Patrick Ewing as the Ewing rookie card. We know his hobby standard rookie is the 86 Flair. So if you're considering the 85 Star Patrick Ewing to be his rookie card, I'm going to draw out the conclusion that you are also thinking that the 84 Star Jordan number 101 is also his rookie card.
I would consider the 84, 85 Star his rookie card. That would be like talking about Mays and Mantle. That's their 51 Bowman. And the 86 Flair, which is actually Jordan's third year card, that would be more like the 52 Tops in terms of the iconic level, not in terms of being the second year card of Mantle and Mays, but in terms of the iconic factor. So 86, 87 Flair is the third year card of Jordan, in my opinion.
The way you say it, you can't argue that it's the third year card. There was a card in 84 and 85, and then but does the RC designation apply? And we don't have to get into this. We've all talked about this ad nauseum by now, so I'm okay not getting into it. I just wanted to get your thoughts. And then my last question before we go to Joe is Ken Griffey Jr. also has a Star card that predates his 89 rookie cards. You mentioned earlier, just a few minutes ago, that there's some other Star cards you'd like to get. Have you ever considered the Ken Griffey Jr. Star card? Do you hold it to the same standard, at the same level that you do the 84 Jordan, the 85 Patrick Ewing, and the rest of them?
In that Griffey card, and I remember seeing it, they had a platinum version of it, of the Griffey set. Is he in a Mariners uniform or is it minor league?
It's a great question. I don't know.
I should know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if anyone in the chat knows, let us know what Griffey's Star card, what uniform Griffey is in now. But before we know for sure, Tony, so if he's in the Mariners uniform, that's going to lean you one way versus if he's in his minor league uniform?
Yeah, I think if it's licensed by the MLB and the MLBPA and he's wearing a Mariners jersey, then yeah, I think it's his rookie card.
Yeah. Okay, appreciate that, Joe.
It doesn't take anything away from the 89 Upper Deck. It's still a great card.
And nor does the 84 Star take anything away from the 86. Like you said earlier, the 86 Fleer is a top 3 iconic card in the whole hobby. And if somehow the RC designation is removed, is stripped of it and given to the 84 star. And I don't know I don't know if anyone single body has the power to do that anymore. Really, there's no Beckett anymore to do that. But the way it was back in the days when Dr. Beckett was at the helm. So I don't know who could even do that. The hobby has so many voices nowadays. But it doesn't take away how iconic the 86 Fleer is, the 52 tops. No one who's informed argues that that's a rookie card. People say it out of convenience. Even experts in the hobby will say it out of convenience, but they know that it's not a true rookie. Doesn't mean it's not a top 3 most iconic card in the history of the hobby. It's interesting that 2 of the 3 most iconic cards in the whole hobby, and again, I'm talking about the Jordan, the Mantle, and the Honus Wagner. The 2 of them aren't even rookie cards. I think that's interesting. Tony, do you agree?
Completely.
Joe, now that Tony agrees, what do you think about all this, Joe? I know you like your star. I feel like you got some questions and comments. So,
well
Mike,
for starters, I just got to say, as a surfer, having a shark right below me on the screen is a little unnerving. But hey, it's classic. Tony, I had a chance to look over your IG page today, and one thing that struck me that I was really kind of gratified by in a way was how you don't have the grades of your cards visible, and you're letting everyone sort of appreciate the raw state, even as they are protected. And for the kinds of cards you have, it makes sense. But I wanted to also commend you for your sensibilities in moving into what people might deem oddball cards. I mean, the term you used, because I think we are in a very kind of sheep culture sometimes in the hobby, and you certainly have some cards that are more traditional, but noticing the cards in your reels or in your posts, I was struck and reminded of some of my own sentiments where it does occur to you. It's like, why would I go with just another 77 tops if I could get the cloth sticker, right, which has that different texture and very kind of unusual. And I'm sure if you start to go down the land of pop counts, but I guess what I wanted to ask you is kind of like where and how did you come to be an oddball collector? And I'm using that term with the utmost respect. And is there anything about your personality that you think informed maybe taking the road less traveled in some of your collector pursuits? Because you've really you're not just an oddball collector, you're also like a grail oddball collector, which I find really compelling.
So growing up as an 80s kid, I did buy hockey cards. Big time Flyers fan, even though we didn't win a Stanley Cup after 75. But for some reason, something about the OPG cards resonated with my friends and me. Not just me, but they look better than the Topps cards. The card stock was brighter, and it just looked more premium. It reminded us of the Tiffany cards because of the card stock. So when I got back into the hobby, so we bought, when it came to hockey, we never bought the Topps version. We always bought the OPG version, except for the 88 Gretzky, because the OPG version just had him wearing his jersey, whereas the Topps version had him holding up the Kings jersey. So when I got back in 2018, when I bought all my Schmidt Carlton cards, I went with the OPG versions. Not only were they cheaper, but they had the premium card stock. So I guess that's kind of where it started. I'm looking at some of my 80s cards, and I have the Mattingly 84 OPG. For me, it's more interesting. And look at the card stock; it's just nice. And then this is just a Schmidt card. I thought I pulled it, and I have it here. Sorry for folks to see my backside, but
nice backside.
Thanks. But even for the Schmidt, this is the 73 Schmidt rookie card.
Oh yeah.
And and then when I see the OPG version, you have the French language, and that's great.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the back, it's like a little bit brighter. It's, so even in 73, the card stock was a little bit different. And it just got, more paramount in terms of the difference in card stock, as we got into the later 70s and the 1980s.
Tony, I got to ask you, you said it has the French language on it, the O-Pee-Chee, and that's great. Why? Why is it great that the French is on there? If you like, and I asked that, and now I'm going to go tongue in cheek, unless you're trying to use it to help you understand the English. Why is it great to have the French on there?
Because it's different. And I don't see French every day. I don't speak it. I don't see it written every day. So it just reminds me of how I collected hockey cards in the 80s also, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting. As a Canadian, and I grew up on O-Pee-Chee, I prefer the French not being on there because, I understand it uses the same letters of the language that English uses, but I don't know French. I can't speak it. Can't really, I can kind of read it, but I certainly can't understand it if you're speaking it to me. So for me, I like the additional simplicity of a Topps card versus an O-Pee-Chee when it comes to the French on the back. However, that said, I grew up collecting O-Pee-Chee, and there's so much nostalgia in it for me. So yeah, just a question that I had. Joe, any follow up for Tony on that?
Well, I guess I wanted to underscore to Tony, as someone who's been collecting pretty much my whole life, it's really affirming. It's almost like it's given me permission a little bit, seeing how awesome your collection is of somewhat beaten path versions of cards or cards in and of themselves, to kind of maybe go back and recalibrate some of the things that I might have looked at and said, hey, that's cool, but no, I better stick with the mainstays because, investment, this, that, and the other. Just looking at some of the things you had just made me think, you know what? These are so cool to look at and so unique. There's just a higher level of, I guess you could say, collectability for things that you just don't see every day. And then once you get them in hand, they do sort of evoke a certain higher level of nostalgia, I think. You mentioned some of all those in those 70s days between Burger King and this and that, Shakey's Pizzas, Icy Tops. There's all kinds of oddball versions. And, I'm not even doing it for like investment potential, but I could actually see over time that people start to discover these things as the traditional issues of the 70s and 80s just start to, wear a little thin on people's interest. And maybe it's worth all of us kind of inventorying what's out there and how we might just not necessarily switch lanes, but just, maybe take a flyer on something that we wouldn't normally consider as part of our mainstay collection.
Yeah. I was thinking about something pretty similar, but relating it to the modern world. So you mentioned Burger King, and I got two 80s, 1980 Schmidt cards here. And, you got Burger King, you got Topps, I got the O-Pee-Chee, and the Pepsi one. And in the modern world, these would be parallels, 101s, 105s, different colors, rainbows. And I also kind of think collecting these cards, which have the same image on the front, pretty much the same card design, a few tweaks here or there, that's equivalent to what we're seeing in the modern hobby.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else feels the same way about that. It'll be interesting if the folks could comment who do collect modern cards.
One thing I like about Topps versus O-Pee-Chee is the quality of the cards are just better, a little bit better, but that also adds so much nuance to the O-Pee-Chees, and it makes the O-Pee-Chee Wayne Gretzky rookie card kind of like a whole category in and of itself, which can be a lot of fun. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the basketball card Hall of Fame, Tony? What's going on there?
I'm working with Ray from Philly on a basketball card Hall of Fame. Been thinking about this for the last year, just haven't taken any action on it. And since then, we have had 2 baseball card Hall of Fame ballots, and they got inducted. And we had a football card Hall of Fame. So I think it's time we have a basketball card Hall of Fame. So we currently have a list of all the cards that are going to be put in either 2 or 3 eras of basketball. Because if you go, unlike baseball and football and even hockey, if you look at basketball cards, you got the 48 Bowman or 49 Bowman, you got the 57 Tops, and you got the 61 Flair. Then you take a break until the 67 test set or 67, 68 Tops test set. Then you start getting a set every year after that by Tops. So we're probably going to have one era for, pre-1970s. Then we'll have an era for the 80s and maybe the 90s, and then an era for 2000 and newer. And it'll be for cards of retired players only. So there'll be no LeBron James yet, or Zion. There'll be no Zions for folks who want to vote for him for the Carter Hall of Fame. So we got about 40 cards there. I ran the list of cards through a couple people in the hobby, and they thought it was a nice list. So we'll be rolling it out soon. Ray's going to work on the website. It'll be comparable to what you see with the baseball and the football card Hall of Fames. And we'll have a couple announcements coming out in the next month.
So pay attention. Where can people keep track of this, and what, because right now we see your name under there. We have @TJ is online. That is your Instagram handle, I believe, but your YouTube channel is TJ_is_online, which, guys, is down below in the video description. Make sure you go to Tony's channel, hit the subscribe button, and follow along if you want on the Basketball Card Hall of Fame, which you are rolling out. Is that all? Is that a good way for people to keep on top of this?
Yeah, I am on Twitter, but I check Instagram more. So Instagram is just TJ. If you just type TJ is online, then you can find me. Just look for the Mike Schmidt mug, which is the same picture I use everywhere.
Okay, great stuff, Tony. So there are some really good questions and comments in the chat. I want to run through some chat stuff, guys. And then I've got one question that I had in my notes for you, Tony. I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to wait until Chris Hoge comes on because he's in the back, and we're going to bring him on after we do the comments. And I'll give you the question is, and it doesn't, well, maybe Chris can opine on it because he's more of a modern guy, and this is more vintage, but he can opine on it still. And it is going to be, what's more important to you as a collector for your own cards, centering or registration? That's the question. But not yet. Put that on the back burner. You too, Chris. You too, Joe. I'm talking to Chris. I see him, but I see him. There you go. Hi, Chris. Okay, guys, I want to go through some comments first. First of all, 28 Relic said, Jeremy skated that subject perfectly. Actually, as my little 6-year-old say, actually, I don't know if I did, but thank you for that. Mookie Chilson says, now this is a booking. That is in reference to Tony right here. Very nice, Mookie. Foul Ball, what's going on? Foul Ball, get to see you. Mookie says, Tony is one of my favorite collectors and a great guy. Ziggy No says, TJ is new to me. Thanks for the intro. You bet. Mr. Minty is calling out, loves his star basketball. Bob Boozle says, Topps should not have given up on basketball cards in the 80s. Could you imagine if they didn't? Holy moly. That it's one of those things we'll never know. The Firm says, what about Steve Taft selling the printing plates for the original star, Michael Jordan? Tony, is there anything you can say about that? Are you aware of that? Is he selling them now?
I can't afford it.
Are they for sale?
I know the original Type 1 photo is. I think he has the plates also.
Yeah, I think I heard that he does as well. I think he told me that at a show one time. Let's Go Jordan says, photos are solid. The cardboard is junk. He's talking about the star cards. The Firm says, yeah, the star cards are printed on what he's referring to as schmuck paper. But that just adds to it, right? Like that's what they are. It makes, I don't know, I think it can be kind of cool. Ziggy No says, rookie is overrated. Mike Petty says, Victor is the rookie card specialist. Bob Boozle says, oh, Victor, fetch me your book so I can fact check Jeremy on this. Bob Boozle says, Fleer makes a wonderful third-year card. Again, these are a little bit from a few minutes ago, but those are some funny comments. And then both Foul Ball and Mr. Minty confirmed that Ken Griffey Jr. star card is with the Mariners, Tony. So that makes the card that much more interesting, I would say, right?
Yeah, pretty cool card.
Mike Petty says, I could care less about rookie card. They are overrated as a whole. Skeppy says, nobody has the authority to say what any card is. I mean, I agree with all these comments, by the way. Like Mike Petty's comment, I don't really care about rookie cards anymore. So some I do. Modern times, I don't really care. Rookie year cards are interesting to me. The RC, not as interested in anymore. Same with what Skeppy says. Yes. Is there any one person or entity that has the authority to say what any card is? I don't think anyone has the final authority, but I think that, if PSA says something, or if Top says something, that those are going to be pretty authoritative. Let's Go Jordan says the best thing about the hobby is it's what each individual wants it to be. It is what each individual wants it to be. Collect what you like. Again, can't argue with that. Let's Go Jordan says, is rarity more important than what you like? Now, this is a I want to save that one for when Chris comes on. And Let's Go Jordan also says Basketball Hall of Fame, love it. Okay, now a bunch of more comments have come in, but we are just going to get on with the show now, because I'm looking at, well, Ziggy says, does grading need I mean, it's all so many great discussion questions. Does grading need regulation? The firm, I can't put that on the screen, but I appreciate the comment. Okay. Thank you for the comments, everybody. So let's do this. Let's bring Chris on, and then we've got a couple of topics in addition to whatever he brings. And Tony, you're going to be a part of this. So Chris, you good? Thumbs up. He's on the show. Welcome back, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing great too. Thank you for joining us. Say hello
My
to Tony
pleasure.
and Joe.
Hello, Tony. And Joe fell into the ocean again.
Joe fell off the surfboard. He's treading water out there somewhere. There he is. He's swimming back. So swimming back to shore.
Can I ask something real quickly, Jeremy?
Please.
Joe, so have you seen the results of tonight's game?
No. And if that can be spared me, I'd like to watch immediately.
No
after,
problem.
but
No problem.
thank you.
As long as you don't, we'll look at the comments, Joe. You will be safe. I won't say it. Tony knows not to. Chris won't say it. So with that out of the way, Chris, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here with myself, Joe, and Tony. And I know you always come with a great topic, but there's a couple of things that I want to go around the horn with here. One was my own topic, and one did come from Let's Go Jordan just tonight, which I starred. And maybe we'll start with that one, guys. Is everyone okay if that's what we do? Does anyone want to say anything before we get into that? Joe, Tony? Good. Chris, you're good? Okay. So let's do this. Let's start with my topic, which was centering versus registration. And I think, Tony, I came up with this after chatting with you a few days ago. So it's our topic, really, that we were going to talk about. And since it was, I'll start with you, Tony. What is more important to you? And I got to say, for me, these are the two most important condition criteria: centering and registration. And I think the hobby generally would say centering is the most important thing. For me, registration is the most important thing. I'd rather have a well-focused off-center card than a centered out-of-focus card. I'll stop there. Tony, where do you fall?
I remember in the 80s, everything was about corners, sharp corners, no creases. Centering was secondary, but as I got older and I got more into the hobby, I started to value centering a lot more, especially for vintage, but even on modern cards, just centering's key. But every now and then you find a card and maybe you can't afford it centered with perfect registration. So you have to sacrifice. And in those situations, I'll sacrifice a little bit or a lot of centering if I can get perfect registration. And I have an example here of a 33 Galaxy Nalat. And the registration on this is, it's off the charts. Now the centering is, not that great, I would say the centering is about 80-20. But, it's for a car that's, is the registration's off a lot of the times. I'll take a non-center card.
With good focus, i.e.,
Yeah.
good registration in the printing process. Yeah, I mean that's where I fall too. My example is my 48 or 49, whatever you're calling it these days, Leaf Jackie Robinson. Perfect registration, horribly off-centered, but I would not trade it for a perfectly centered, and mine's a PSA 6. I would not trade it for a perfectly centered PSA 6 that was out of focus. So to me, it's registration. Joe, where do you fall?
I mean, if it's not like ridiculously off center, I'd rather have strong registration, or because that's kind of what I'm looking at, right? I mean, it's nice to have both, but if I had to pick, I'll go registration, and I'll throw in another word: saturation. Color saturation is meaningful.
Yeah, I mean that great. Now we got to start this discussion over again, because he's right. Saturation, the color, it's not just the registration. And I guess when I'm kind of saying registration, well, I'm saying, you've heard me say the word several times, it's part and parcel for me. It's the quality of the application of the printing plates to the cardboard. How aligned are they, and how saturated are those? Was the ink on the cardboard? So Joe, critical comment. Thank you for that. Chris, I do know that you are more of a modern collector, but I have to think that you have an opinion on this as well.
Yeah, it's definitely out of my wheelhouse. I don't think I've ever had a situation where I had to look at a card and decide to pick the copy that has better registration or pick the copy that has better centering. I'm always just really dealing with centering. Although, Jeremy, you certainly have made me, or not just recently, but over the years of listening to you talk about registration, I've come to appreciate a lot more as a characteristic of even modern and ultra modern cards. And Joe could probably attest to this. Ultra modern issues sometimes have registration problems too. I think there's definitely some Prism releases that are just fuzzy to the eye. But anyway, I'm going to I'll dip a toe into this discussion, even though I think my opinion should be probably just heavily discounted right at the outset, because this really just isn't something I think about very often. But I came up with this idea, or this approach to this. So if you have a situation where you have good centering and bad registration, good centering but bad registration, that card is going to look good from far away. The centering is going to look nice. It's too far for you to really detect the registration. So from a distance, from yards away, that card's going to look good from afar, but bad up close. As you get closer, the registration, the out of focus, that's going to start to impede your enjoyment of that card. But if you stay far enough away, oh, it looks nice and centered, and my eye isn't able to detect the out of registration nature of the card, as long as I'm far enough away. Now, here's the flip side. If a card has good registration, but bad centering, good in focus registration, but bad centering, it's way off center. In that case, it's going to look good up close, because I can just put the card right here. I can enjoy all of its characteristics. I don't really have to pay attention to the centering. I can get the card close enough that I don't need to think about the fact that one border is fatter than the other. But that card is going to look bad from far away, because when I'm far away, I'm not going to be able to think and appreciate the registration. I'm just going to be able to mostly see the border and the framing of the card, and then the out of center nature of it's going to bother me. So that's how I split the baby, Jeremy.
Oh, I appreciate that perspective. You added depth to the discussion, Chris, that none of us had yet. So, how are you looking at the card? But then there's a follow-up discussion to all this, guys, which is, well, and it's funny because here, Foul Ball says the 50-foot rule, right? But here's the thing. How are we looking at our cards, Chris? How often are you flipping through your cards from 50 feet or yards away, as you put it, versus holding them like literally at arm's length? Like, I look at my cards. This is the distance I look at my cards from. Right. I'm not looking at them. Now, I have some cards on my shelves over there that are a few yards away. And yeah, I probably can't tell, but here's the other where your mind plays tricks on you, is that if I know the card's out of focus and I have it sitting on a shelf for me across the room, I know it's out of focus, and I'm going to see that. I'm going to see it, even if it's my brain playing tricks on me. So
Jeremy, I like that. I like this. You've sort of enhanced my approach, and you've said, okay, so if what I say is true, then, well, how do you spend most of your time looking at the card? And if most of your time is spent within close range of the card, which it is, then that mitigates, or that leans in the direction of favoring registration over centering. And I think you've guided me to where my criteria naturally lead, which is registration.
I think that's the logical place to get to based on your approach, which was a great approach. I thought it was. So I appreciate that comment. And I think we went around the horn on that one. Does Tony or Joe, do either of you have any follow-ups on that? We're here. Just go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, just with what Chris said, it's spot on. In fact, it's so spot on, it kind of reminded me of my college dating life. The further away I was,
the better you look to the girls.
yeah, me.
Oh Lord, that's great.
That's all right. Good stuff. Okay, let's go back now to the other question, and this one came from Let's Go Jordan, and I think it's a great comment, and it applies to all eras and niches in the hobby. So to put it back on the screen, is rarity more important than what you like? And listen, the question as it is written on the screen right now, as I just read it, is good enough. But I'm going to add a bit of context, if I may, to that, which really is it one or the other? Like, what I'm trying to say is, I don't think that. No, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to save my thoughts for when I opine on this for myself. Let's go around the horn on this one. And Bob Booz says, rest in peace around the horn. Well, we're back with some more around the horn. So back to the question one more time. Is rarity more important than what you like? Let's start with you, Tony.
I would say no. It's something, I recently picked up a Josh Gibson 1 of 5, and it's from 2023 Bowman. Really nice card, and it's rare. It's a red one, but I'm not crazy about it. And the image is used on other cards, so I think I have to go with what I like over scarcity, rarity.
Thank you, Joe.
I mean, there's so many frameworks within which to look at this question, right? I mean, vintage, ultra modern, like I probably would have different answers depending on what era of card I'm considering. I will just say that I've trended more from what I like to rarity, but I think I probably still lean just a little towards what I like. But my projection seems to be headed more and more. For instance, in the vintage baseball world, I'm far more interested in standard Carmel issues, E98s, things that truly have under 100 pops, where, I love the aesthetics of 33, 34 Gaudis, T206s, but not infrequently those pops, especially if you take into account all the, in the T206 world, all the backs. I mean, there's just massively more of those. And so I do find myself gravitating more and more towards rarity, especially in the vintage world.
Chris.
Yeah, great answers and perspectives here. The way I kind of am breaking this down is whether I like a card or not is a threshold question. Meaning, if I don't like a card, I never even get to the point of wondering how rare it is. There are plenty of cards that score 100 on the rarity scale. They are as rare as possible. They are one of ones. And I don't like them, maybe because I don't collect the player, maybe because I don't collect the product. Maybe there's a handful of other reasons why. But if I don't like the card, I never even get to ask how rare is it. It's already out of my perspective. However, once a card does pass the threshold question, and I have decided that I do like it, then rarity is an enormous piece of the function. So once we are in the world of cards that I like, rarity can certainly tip the scale. If like maybe I like one card 9 out of 10 in terms of its eye appeal and its aesthetics, and another card's a 7 out of 10 in terms of how much it speaks to me on an aesthetic subjective level, but the rarity of the 7 out of 10 it's 10 times rarer than the other one, I'm probably going to lean towards the rarer one and hope or learn to like it even more.
Yeah, that's kind of where I fall. I start with, do I like the card? And for all the reasons that would make me like a card, the player, the aesthetics, the design, that's really what it comes down to for me. Maybe a bit about the brand, you know, the brand equity, the lineage, those sorts of things. But I start with, do I like the card? And that's going to help me decide if I'm going to, and then the rarity of it is probably going to contribute to whether or not I can afford to buy it. So I have to consider that. But if I don't like a card, I really don't care how rare it is. I am not going to want it as much as I would want an alternate card. And as an example, I'm going to look at Babe Ruth. I'm going to look at his 1916 M101s and all of its variations. And listen, I know it's a wonderful card. I know it's super valuable and it's rare and it's, you know, his rookie card and all that. But to me, I don't love the looks of it. It doesn't turn me on at all aesthetically. However, as an alternative or an alternate to that for me, the 1933 Gaudi, all 4 Babe Ruths. I love all 4 of those cards. So if I can only own one Babe Ruth, I'm going with the one that I like more, the less rare copy that I like more. And, you know, conditions and condition, all that's kind of aside when it comes to, you know, really spectacular cards like that. But that's kind of my position on this. Rarity is going to be important. And like Chris said, too, I have to like the card, and then I'm going to start looking at and then there's different kinds of rarity. There's manufactured rarity, if we're calling it that, or serial, like stated print run rarity. Let me call it that. I think that's a little bit friendlier. Stated print run rarity. And then there's condition rarity. And then there's eye appeal rarity. And I don't care about like condition rarity, like population rarity. Turned me on up until a few years ago. Now I'm all about what eye appeal for me rarity. That's what's going to separate me from my money is going to be eye appeal rarity. So I thought that was a really interesting question. And again, we're referring to this one from Let's Go Jordan, where he says, is rarity more important than what you like? We've gone around the horn, guys. I want to go to comments on this and maybe a few from before, and then we'll go to responses from the panel as well. But Dave Marone called out registration. Foul Ball says, I don't mind manufacturing errors. I can't stand bent corners. And like, I'm the opposite. I'm good with a bent corner. I can't stand manufacturing errors. But Stone Collector feels the same way as Foul Ball does. And again, this is what makes the hobby beautiful. We don't all need to like the same things, and nor do we. Chris C says, no, I collect what I want. I'm not looking to resell. Perfect. Dave Marone says, I would never purchase a card graded over a 4 without near perfect registration. Listen, I think that is what I like about this comment, is that Dave has a standard. He's got a framework that he's working within. And to me, that's, you're halfway, you're on your way there to, I think, actually collecting what you like and not being confused about it. Foul Ball says, I do love horribly cut cards. They are rare. Not me, but I love that Foul Ball likes it. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Yelia Williams says, we can't all have rare cards. The hobby only works if people are collecting what they like. Chris.
Why can't we all have rare cards?
Because they're rare. There's not enough of them to go around.
Yeah, that's a great point. But in the ultra modern era, this is a discussion I think we got into a week or two ago. There are lots of rare cards. I mean, so maybe there are no rare cards, but in the ultra modern era, you know, like let's say that I am a Jalen Brunson collector. Jalen Brunson has very expensive cards. He has cards that are worth in the six figures now. But he also has cards that are equally as rare, maybe even rarer if you consider that he has 2 1-of-1 parallels to his Prism base set card, but he has other offerings from his rookie season that are 1-of-1-of-1s that could be had for hundreds of dollars. So I think there are lots. I want to push back on that. I understand the spirit of the question that rarity by its definition is exclusive. But I think there are different ways to divide the pie, and what's rare to me can be very different than what's rare to somebody else. And so if my concept of rarity is there's the fewest copies printed of a particular type of card, there are so many rare cards, especially in the Panini era, that are very affordable.
Yeah, I mean, listen, anyone can go out for under $20 and buy a 1-of-1 printing plate. Right? Like there are like Chris is right. There are tons of rare cards. I think the comment wasn't in that spirit though, Chris. I don't think that I think they were getting at, you know, the rare and desirable maybe more desirable, more broadly desirable. But you're right. There are enough rare cards out there that everybody probably could have rare cards nowadays, especially if we're talking about rare cards that aren't valuable, because rare doesn't mean valuable. It just doesn't. Printing plates come to mind. Before we go on, Tony, Joe, either of you have anything to add on to this? To add in? No? Joe?
Real quick, I mean, when you were talking about the different kind of subsets of cards that you find desirable, you know, historically through your collecting evolution, one thing I just would throw out there, I mean, we talked about condition. We talked about, you know, condition in the grade. You talked about eye appeal. What more and more I've been in the vintage world just thinking too about overall pop, right? Like if the total pop of a particular issue, you know, if you got 49 whatever, you know, orange whatever, E92, this, that, and the other, that to me becomes, even if it's not if I can get in on a card that's under 50 cataloged in existence and it's a Hall of Famer, I start to be very liberal with my eye appeal. I mean, you know, I'll take phrase, I'll take creases if it presents reasonably well in any particular way. So I don't know. That's just a lane. It's my Beater Joe lane, as you know, Jay Lee. That's my.
And you know what, Joe? I think Dan's Vintage Baseball made the comment earlier, and I've seen him on his own channel talk about not eye appeal, but he calls it own appeal, owning the card, just owning the card. And we see that in modern, we see that in rare 90s inserts where there's only 10 of them. I just heard Nat Turner say on his green PMG Michael Jordan, he just wants to own the card. He doesn't care that it's authentic, maybe altered, even though he said he can't see how it's altered, but he just wants to own the card. And to me, like, yeah, own appeal. That's another thing, right? Like, now, I do draw the line at some point on any card, you know, like that. But listen, if I was able to buy a T206 Honus Wagner, am I going to care that it's one that's fully creased? That's another story. We don't need to go there. But I thought that was pretty interesting stuff right there. I want to continue through some of these comments. So that was Yelia Williams' comment here. We can't all have rare cards. The hobby only works if people are collecting what they like. I certainly agree with that second part, though. And when he says hobby only works if people are collecting what they like. So like collectors collect. Not everybody is collecting and owning cards. So the hobby works with people chasing cards they don't like as well. It's part of the ecosystem, I believe. Skeppy said a rare card can be so scarce that you can't even see it to know if you like it. We are so nutty in cards that we can desire a card so much sight unseen. I mean, that's interesting, right? I don't know that applies to me, but I see nodding on the screen. And before you guys respond, I just want to say hello to Greg. Greg is new here in the live chat. Greg, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining us and hope to see you back again. He also says, I bought my first baseball card back in 1974. I like complete sets. Awesome, Greg. Thank you for being here. Okay, but back to that last comment. I saw some nodding there from Chris and Tony. Tony, why don't you tell us what you were thinking?
Yeah. Sometimes there's a unicorn out there and we don't know that it exists. And then once we see it in a magazine, that's how I found out about that 77 Reggie Jackson proof. There's only 9 of them in existence. And the version I have, there's only about 1 or 2 of them because it doesn't have all 4 colors on the progressive proof. But once I saw it as a kid in a magazine, it just stayed with me. And it's like trying to attain something you didn't know existed, and then you can't get it out of your mind, once you have it in there.
But if you see it and it's ugly to you, then what happens to your mindset?
Then I gotta drink a couple beers and maybe I'll go for it then.
Back to college, hey Tony?
Back to college.
Nah.
How about you, Chris? You were nodding too. Did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I've got an answer to this I'm excited about. All right. Because this is a point that I have been approaching for years. And I just feel like sometimes I get a little closer to it. And this question draws me even closer to it. Collecting is definitely part subjective. Collecting is part aesthetic. It's part what speaks to you on the level of beauty and art and emotion and nostalgia and all these things. Collecting is also part conceptual. There is a part of collecting that happens in the realm of the abstract, divorced from aesthetics and the subjective. And I'll give you an example because this happens in sports too.
I'm convinced Chris is behind the curtain at ChatGPT. Sorry, Chris, continue.
Yeah, I'm actually feeding this into GPT and I'm reading what it's saying. Okay. And here's the abstract part of this. All right. So, I'm going to make this point by way of analogy. So when I'm evaluating sports and I'm making my list of who I think the greatest players of all time are, I actually am encouraged to do it as objectively and fairly as possible, which means I need to take my subjective point of view. Oh, I think this guy has the nicest dunks and this guy has the nicest shooting form. I have to take all that away. And I have to say, on an even playing field, who accomplished the most? Even if it didn't look great, even if I didn't like the way it was done, who obtained the purpose of the game the best, which is to win? And so I came up with a metric for that, which is called total MVPs. And I use it in basketball, and I say, add up all the regular season MVPs and the finals MVPs. 2 opportunities every player gets every season to prove that they're the best player in the league. Add them up. Whoever has the most, that's my objective criteria. That's done in the abstract. That takes my subjective opinion exists at the level of determining the criteria or determining the methodology. But after that, my subjectivity goes away and every player is evaluated by the same exact metric. And in the same way, that GOAT ranking needs these objective metrics to be done fairly to remove the personal bias in a sense. Well, in the same way, collecting has this abstract dimension to it where we need ways to be able to conceptually think of how cards relate to each other that actually removes the eye test bias so that maybe I like the way one looks, maybe somebody else likes the way the other looks. But then there's this conceptual colleague to that approach. So, okay, let me leave it there and see if anybody has reactions to that.
You have a methodology and you follow it and you've come up with a criteria that's important to you, being total MVPs. And if that's what's important to you in deciding who, because that's a who question, not a what. If that's important to you in deciding who to collect, I mean, you got to go with what you believe in. That is what you like, Chris. You like collecting winners, if that's what you're saying. Right. So no one can argue that with you. People can argue if that is the right metric to decide who a GOAT is total MVPs the end all be all. But honestly, Chris, it doesn't matter to you what I think or Joe or Tony thinks or the chat thinks. It matters what you think on that. So those are kind of my responses to it. It's, you know, if that makes sense to you, go for it. And it's not a foolproof criteria because, you know, in hockey, we've got a guy named Henri Richard. Only the hockey guys recognize that name. He's got 11 Stanley Cups. He's not in the GOAT discussion. His brother, who was way better than him, isn't even in the GOAT discussion. Maurice the Rocket Richard was his brother. He's not even in the GOAT discussion. And he's got, what, 6 Stanley Cups, something like that, too. So that is those are championships. Those aren't MVPs. I confused that. My bad.
It's the same point, though. It's the same point. It's that people have different criteria, and we're going to have different criteria. I think the point I was trying to get at is that there is in every subject where we're ranking things, there is space for a conceptual or an abstract component that goes alongside the subjective component, that they can exist in parallel to each other.
Yeah, and I want to also, I just saw this comment here from Chris C. saying MVP awards don't do it solely because, in my opinion, it's a team sport, unlike boxing or tennis or golf, right? No one does it alone. And that's where I struggle to assign GOAT status solely based on winning. However, I like number of championships. However, I do think to be in the discussion, you have to have won it all. And that's where I run into some conflicts when it comes to discussions about a Connor McDavid, who is 4 wins away from finally doing it. And I hope he does so I can stop having these discussions. But I think that to be in the GOAT discussion, even in a team sport, you have to have won it at least once. Tony, you're nodding. You agree?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Joe? Yeah. Yeah. And Tony, by the way, I'm just watching the clock. I know I based on the schedule, I know it's late for you. If you want to jump off, you're more than welcome to jump off, but you're more than welcome to stick around as well.
Thank you.
Just so you know.
Okay.
Just let us know. All right. But I want to respect your time. And I know you're on the East Coast. So just wanted to jump that out. Joe.
Yeah. I wanted to respond to Chris real quick. Because I think where he was going was, not so much the GOATs, but the cards. And my response to that would be that cards are far more complex. And that's a beautiful thing that they're far more complex. And it doesn't mean that we can't exercise some rigorous intellectual thinking to make some, sort of heuristics around how we might come to a reasonably objective opinion of what where a card of whatever player might rank, but it does, I think, GOATs are hard enough, the players are hard enough as it is, but we generally reach consensus. When you have a multiplicity of brands, a multiplicity of issues, different eras, it just becomes infinitely more complex, and that is one of the reasons why I love this hobby so much. Absolutely.
Now let's go. Jordan, who introduced one of our questions tonight, puts up a great comment that actually negates what I said just a few minutes ago, which is, what if you're Barry Sanders and you're just on crappy teams the whole time? Is Barry Sanders not the GOAT running back? Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith, kind of ends there, I think. I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson had a good run for a while. There's been others, but as Barry now, I said to go to running backs, not to go to football, and that's these guys aren't even on the field together. Same with baseball, right? Baseball offense and defense aren't on the field together. Basketball and hockey, they're on the field together. Soccer, they're on the field together. So it's there. I don't think it's not a one size fits all sort of thing. There isn't. I think it has to be dissected. Chris, I know you talk about this stuff almost for hours a day because I get to see a lot of it, dude.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me though, with what I just said, that each sport has to be looked at differently, or are you fixated on, no, you don't win, you're not in the GOAT conversation?
I think each sport definitely can be looked at differently. And I'm interested to hear all the different ways that people approach the topic, but I have a way of filtering out the good approaches from the bad, and it works very quickly. The only thing that I ask is that whatever approach I use, or my friends, my fellow collectors, whatever approach is being used, the criteria need to be specified in advance so that there's no goalpost moving. We're going to use one set of criteria for Barry Sanders and a different set for Jim Brown. We're not going to do that. My requirement is that people apply the same standard to all players. And then after applying the same standard to all players, they produce the list that results from their criteria. So, for example, a great example of this, which we were kind of dancing around, I think we're all in agreement on it. The example that I'm going to bring up is, let's say somebody's opinion is that the greatest player of all time in basketball is the person who has won the most championships, and that the list or the way of determining who the best player is in basketball is the best player who has won the most championships. Great. I can't tell you, and it's not my place to tell that person whether or not that's the right approach. They get to decide. That is subjective. What people value in terms of defining the word great is subjective. But what I can do is I can say, okay, so let me apply your criteria. What is the result if we actually do sort every athlete in NBA history by how many championships they've won? And at the top of that list, you get Bill Russell, who has 11 championships. And that's already going to be arguable with people who have different types of lists. But that's the result that the list produces in first. And at least there's an argument that Bill Russell is the best. But then go down the list. Number 2 is Sam Jones, who has 10. Number 3 is John Havlicek, who has 8, tied with Tom Sanders, who has 8. Tied with Casey Jones, who has 8. Tied with Tommy Heinsohn, who has 8. And then a step below that, tied for 7th, you have Robert Horry and Frank Ramsey with 7. And then tied in 9th, you have 5 guys: Bob Cousy, Jim Lokustoff, Kareem, Scottie Pippen, and Michael Jordan. Okay, so that's the result that this criteria produces. So if the list is derived from a fair application of the criteria to all players in NBA history, and that's the list that comes out, and the person says, I'm going to stand by it. This is how I evaluate greatness. It's by who has the most championships. Here's the list that came out. I say, great. You fairly applied your criteria. You're standing by your list. So be it. That's the one thing that I require, Jeremy, is that whatever the criteria that people use, it needs to be fairly applied to all players through the history of the sport. And then let's just see the list, and then we can decide how good the list is.
Yeah, I mean, that criteria on its own is not appropriate. And I mean, somebody can have that as a criteria and stand by it, but we know that we're going to kind of roll our eyes. I think a potential compromise on that, on using that, is almost saying, okay, once you've won X amount, the added benefit of each one after that, it's like a law of diminishing return. Once you have 4, that's maximum. The 5th one means nothing. The 6th one means less, and so on and so forth. I could see that being a way to work that into a framework that includes a few other criteria, as well as how many championships you've won, like personal, individual accomplishments, records, points, averages, all these different things. So, but really interesting stuff there. Okay. Joe, Tony, anything on that before I go to no? Okay, so let's run through some comments here, guys. I want to get through some. Mike Petty said, I like honest corners on old cards. So do I, Mike Petty. Nice symmetrical rounding is beautiful for me. Bob Boozle says, oh no, Jeremy Lee said, own appeal. It's becoming a thing. I mean, listen, I heard it first on Dan's Vintage and it resonated with me. It made sense. I liked it. I still do. Bob Boozle says, my appeal is more catchy. Okay, yeah, my appeal. I'm going to go with the first one I heard, which is own appeal. Skeppy says, then Emmitt Smith is definitely the GOAT over Barry Sanders when you're talking about winning. Fair. Reef the Sea Forever calls out Walter Payton, who I failed to say when I was rattling off a few running backs. And yes, I just forgot to say Walter Payton, definitely in the discussion. Reef the Sea Forever says Sanders was electric watching him play live. I mean, no doubt about it. Ziggy No says, I think Trout is overrated, but many have him in the Hall of Fame. And Jeff's card journey says, see the card, like the card, buy the card. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I've run things over here in the Jeremy Lee card collecting business. I just, run things business. It's not a business to collect, but yes, definitely. Ziggy No calls out Gail Sayer, says he was amazing too. Steve Young has 3 rings, but nobody really knows or cares, says Skeppy. And that's interesting because I'm watching a Steve Young, a rare, maybe it's a Rubies, go off this week, I think, on Fanatics. And I'm like, why doesn't anybody collect or talk about Steve Young? Joe, you might be the best person to answer that. You're in the Bay Area. Why does, Joe Montana is an all-timer. Why is Steve Young just an afterthought?
I mean, in the Bay Area, he's not a total afterthought, but yeah, it's Joe Montana. I mean, it's just he's living in the shadow of arguably, top 5, maybe top 3 quarterback of all time. So I don't know. I like Steve Young. I've got a lot of good memories watching him scramble, and he had a good arm and had won a Super Bowl and might have won 2 if he'd had the opportunity. But anyway, yeah, I like Steve Young.
Yeah.
Cool player, but just, yeah, I mean, maybe just not quite, living in the shadow of Joe.
Yeah. I mean, he came in right after and just kind of carried the torch without missing a beat, really. So, and then Yuri Nader says Barry Sanders may be the most talented, but doesn't rank as high as Walter Payton in my book. Yeah, fair. I mean, I love that you have a book, Yuri. We should all have a book, right? That's a big part of it right there for sure. Okay. Yeah, Reef the Sea. Bo Jackson was awesome. No doubt. Bo Jackson was awesome.
Could I ask a quick question of one of our guests? Tony, I wanted to get back to you just for a quick second, because one of the things I noticed, and it was in relation to the Reggie Proof card, was you had both a lot of personal connection. I mean, you mentioned in the interview about your son having a very brief conversation with Reggie Jackson. You had your own personal, moment, sort of, I guess, epiphany of seeing the card and then, it growing. But then you also knew stuff, and I'm just going to volunteer. I grew up on 66th Avenue in Oakland, and my mom worked at a flower shop that Reggie Jackson went to, and he bought a lot of flowers. He was really into plants, actually. But you mentioned the fires, and I'm assuming those were the Oakland Hill fires, or at least one of them. I mean, there were a couple fires, but maybe it was a personal fire. But the thing that really struck me in that was that Reggie, I think you mentioned upwards of 160 of his own rookie cards, and was moving towards 563 of his own rookie cards, and wanted to hand sign each and every one to create almost his own rookie card auto set. And I never knew any of that. I knew Reggie collected cars as well, but can you tell me a little bit about how you researched and or learned all this stuff about Reggie Jackson?
Yeah, through old baseball card monthly magazine, the one that I think Kraus is the name put out.
Yeah.
And I just remember reading about this before I got out of the hobby and came back in. Reggie was ahead of his time in the hobby. I mean, not only did he, star in movies and buy cars as soon as he ended baseball, as soon as he retired is probably a better way to put it. But that's why Upper Deck signed him to be a spokesperson, because he had the pulse on the hobby. I mean, that's why probably his autograph card from 1990 is the first pack-pulled autograph chase card of all time. But Reggie, for some reason, he knew he was going to make the Hall of Fame. He had over 500 home runs. He was Mr. October, and he has a good sense of what his value is, and he likes himself, and especially then. So yeah, somebody told him, or he just thought of it himself. Just get 563 of my rookie cards, which he was up to about 160 of them. Started numbering them, and unfortunately, it was a house fire, I think, and it went up, and then he started doing it again. Then he had another fire, and then some of the cars got burned too. Reggie was in a number 5. Well, he wasn't in it, but he was away from the house. But yeah, he was involved. His property had a number of fires. It's
in a way,
unfortunate.
Reggie was one of the first, well, maybe not, well, maybe one of the first super collectors of his own card.
I think so. He
Yeah.
loved himself that
was
much.
Giannis.
Yeah.
Giannis before Giannis.
Anyway, I guess that, Tony, that's just my way actually of complimenting what I've noticed about your collecting is that you amplify your own appreciation of your collecting by doing research and kind of learning about things that are going on, and I'm inspired by that. So thank you for that model.
Thank you. Appreciate hearing that. Yeah, I just, when I started the YouTube channel, and I don't make too many videos. I just don't want to put out information, I mean, that's just totally wrong because that won't be fair to the hobby, So, yeah. So I'm just lucky that there's a lot of great people, and, the 4 of you also, the 3 of you also, but other folks that are not currently on, and they put out a lot of good research where I can, learn about this stuff too.
Appreciate that for sure. Okay, guys, we're coming up to the end of the show. I do want to ask some opinions. I think we touched on this earlier on, like almost 3 hours ago, before both Chris and Tony came on. But what I'm getting at is Upper Deck's announcement that they are packaging in the Cup product, which is the highest end hockey product, coming out on June the 4th, I believe. And for the first time, the rookie card, the rookie patch auto, the RPA, will be coming out of the tins of the Cup slabbed, not graded, but by basically a proprietary slab called, I forget the exact names, like the Authentic or something like that, or the Authority maybe. And on this slab will be a code that you can then go punch into their website, and it will show you a picture of the card as it was out of the pack. So you know that the patch was not swapped out and, altered, if you will, that the card is still in the state that it was at first. So I was just wondering what some of your guys' thoughts were on this new evolution of the product of the Cup. And for me, I'm happy that they're doing it. I'm happy they're doing it because I have, for almost 20 years now, fought against fake patches and all that kind of thing. And I don't know how many people know this. I've mentioned this on the show over the years, but back in around 2008, I think, I started a website called fakepatchreport.com, and I rolled it out. And I just got overwhelmed and I couldn't do it. I was working a career and I just couldn't do it. And let me tell you, if I have any regrets in the hobby, my number one regret is not continuing that through to today, not giving up on that. But I've for a long time wanted to see that problem just disappear, and it hasn't disappeared. And here we are, 20 years later or so, and Upper Deck is doing something about it. Now, a lot of people don't like what they're doing about it. A lot of people think there would be more efficient ways. But with all that out of the way, I want to hear your thoughts. What you guys think of this. Tony, why don't we, I assume you've caught wind of it, Tony? Yeah?
Yes, I heard about it.
And what are your thoughts on this evolution of the product and Upper Deck's attempt to combat the fake patch epidemic?
I don't have too many RPAs or just or patches in general. My son has a Jalen Hurts rookie card, but it's one of those from any non-specific game event or any of that thing. But and it's all black, so I guess it's called a napkin patch or something. But I think it's a problem. I hear a lot about it on the crossover show also. And I think the hobby needs to do something, starting with the manufacturers, to combat this. And because it seems like currently, before this announcement, it was all of us doing our own research and then publishing it. And then you got a few folks that are posting on social media, tagging the, Nat and Ryan and all the other graders companies. So I like to see the manufacturers take more of an initiative, and I applaud Upper Deck, their effort.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate the comments, and makes sense to me. Chris.
Yeah. So I agree with everything Tony said. I agree with everything you said, Jeremy. I want to commend you, Jeremy. This is the second time on the show that a topic has come up organically, where, you know, the first one was how much awareness you brought to registration and how that impacted me as a collector and as observer of the market and as an analyst of card collecting. And then the second one is you've agitated for as long as I've known you, which is coming up on many years now. You've agitated about patches and about patch swapping, and I want to approach this topic as strongly as you did, but from a slightly different angle. Patch swapping, man, it sure does look like it might meet the criteria for fraud. You have, you know, the misrepresentation of material fact by the person who's swapping the patch and not telling you that they did it. They know of the falsity. They intend for you to believe that that's the real patch when it's not. Obviously, people rely on it in the market, and then there is damage done when people eventually find out that their card has its patch swapped and the market value of it plummets. So those are the 5 common law elements of fraud that probably get met here. And then if that's happening through the internet or through electronic means and it's happening across state lines, now we're talking about an escalated level of fraud. It's an extremely serious thing when people do it, and when they do it selling cards online, and they might only be doing it to make $50 or $100, or they might be doing it to make tens of thousands or even more. But in all events, they are doing something extremely unethical, immoral, and quite likely illegal, although these things have to be taken on a case-by-case basis. So I just want to be really strong on that when people do that, this isn't just like, well, you know, he swapped the patch. Like, no, this is likely criminal behavior when these things are happening, and it's out of control. I've been victimized by it. I once purchased unwittingly a card with a Christian McCaffrey 2017 National Treasures RPA that had a fake patch, and fortunately a collector brought it to my attention, and you know, shame on me. I should have done better research, but happened, and it could probably happen to most of us. So, you know, it'll probably happen to me again at some point. Probably happen to many of us who are in this chat or listening to this content. So the idea that the sanctity and the integrity of the patches as they come in the card, the idea that should be protected and that we should be able to know what cards look like coming off the manufacturing floor and into the packs, I can't more strongly endorse that. Want to shout out your efforts, Jeremy, to raise awareness to that. Wax Museum Podcast has an RPA tracker for a lot of the NTRPA stuff from some of the bigger players that people reference, and it's a great resource. And then that leads us to the Upper Deck topic. I listened to Jason on your show, Jeremy, the Road to the National episode, and I think that the intention and the concept behind this is anything trending towards manufacturers being able to authenticate via visuals and via photographs what the patch looked like as it came out of the pack is a great step forward. I hope we continue stepping forward. Jeremy, you mentioned that some grading companies photograph cards as they come in for grading, all cards, and that's another piece of evidence that helps us document what a card looked like at a particular point in time, particularly a card that has qualities that sometimes get altered, like patches, like autographs, like corners, like edges. So the more documenting and the more publicly available these resources are to keep track of this stuff, it's only going to protect collectors. It's only going to increase confidence in the market and in transacting. All steps in that direction I'm happy about.
It's really similar to photo matching that you see in the memorabilia world, right? You wanna photo match for authenticity, and I think that's just a neat way to look at it if people aren't really sure what we're even talking about. And I say that because Reef the Sea Forever says, someone explain the patch scam. Well, quite simply, Reef the Sea, bad actors out there take a card with a less desirable patch, meaning fewer colors, less of an interesting design, and they somehow pull that patch out, and then they insert a more interesting, more colorful patch, and that will increase the value of their card. And they have been able to do it without being caught, or you can't even, they leave no clues behind that you can even see. It's pretty crazy and it's been going on for over 20 years now. It's been going on for over 20 years. When I launched fakepatchreport.com, it was like I had hundreds of submissions of fake card. And one of the things you had to provide to me to get your card onto the platform was a before and an after image. And you had to have a reputation. You have to have vouches as what I was calling back in those days, an investigator. You had to be able to have people who, because Photoshop was a thing back then. So there were, we had to be careful. But in any event, that's what that scam is, or that problem is. And listen, I'm glad Upper Deck is doing something about it. Is it the optimal solution in my mind? No, but it's something. It's something that, and I think what they did is very clever, because you got to think like them. And what I mean is that they took a problem and they said, okay, we have a problem. We want to find a solution for this problem. And I'm not worried about whenever they figure this out, like who cares that 20 years went by? Well, it's important that 20 years went by, but that's not what I'm focusing on here. I'm focusing on they had a problem. And when they finally put pen to paper and put their brain power on it, they said, well, let's find a solution, but let's find a solution that provides other benefits. Like, let's make the unboxing experience better. Let's put it in a slab. Let's cover that slab with an insert inside the pack so that the unboxing, the breaking experience is now going to be twofold. You got the 5 or 6 unslabbed cards, and then you got the big RPA at the end. They just made breaking the box of the cup or the tin of the cup that much more exciting for the person opening the product, whether it's a private person or in a public forum on a breaking site or whatever it may be. So I think that was clever of them. But in doing so, they did not address all the other cards that are not RPAs. And Brett S. right here says, in my opinion, Upper Deck should have a database for all patch cards in all products. The database can sit with checklists on the Upper Deck website. I mean, yeah, I think so too. I think that they all, like Brett S. also says here, Upper Deck might be sealing cup RPAs, but these cards only make up a small percentage of the patch cards available in the cup. I prefer my Gretzky limited logos be protected. Yeah, I mean, some of these cards that they are slabbing are literally going to be $5 cards. 3+ shipping sort of thing. And a lot of cards worth hundreds and thousands of dollars, hundreds or thousands of dollars will not be protected by this technology. Now, this is a first rollout of it. Maybe they'll expand the program in the future, but it's right. Triple V says card manufacturers ought to strive to provide collectors with an online database of their cards, especially the unique ones. That's what I've been asking for and lobbying for. And, as I've said before on the show, in 2009, I went to the Upper Deck pack out of the cup and I photographed all the patch cards. There were 28,000 or so. And I got images of all of them. And that's the only time that's ever been done. And me, of all people, not even an Upper Deck employee, I was the one that did that. And I was told the next year that I was not welcome back. And that was disappointing, but also I wasn't an Upper Deck employee. So I didn't make a big fuss about it. And Carvin, who's in the chat, listening, watching right now, says, we tried, Jeremy. Carvin was the guy at Upper Deck who got me to come. Like, he was the guy that made that happen. That's why Carvin and I go back almost 20 years now. And it's funny, just to give a little bit more about Carvin and mine's relationship. Yeah, Carvin says, who invited you? I just said it, Carv. You're the one that you facilitated that. No, like, you totally facilitated that, man. And full kudos to you for having the foresight to do it. And the next year, I know it wasn't Carvin's call to not have me back, but I proved that the photos can be captured by one person over 4 days. It wasn't that expensive. So anyway, that's part of the situation there. And then as far as me and Carvin go, we became good buddies. because I think this isn't bad to say. We shared a hotel room. We shared a hotel room at the pack out in Carolina because I went down there on my own time and my own dime. And to mitigate that cost, Carvin and I, we shared a hotel room, and you know, we became good buddies. So anyway, just to get that all out there, lots of comments coming through. Any responses to that from the panel first? Joe, anything from, I mean, you're unmuted, so is Tony. Anything either of you guys want to say, or if not, we can go to Chris too, or we'll go to comments and then we'll wrap up the show.
My only comment on the UD stuff is that I think it's a good signal to the hobby. You know, there's the micro level of the specific cards, but there's a macro signal that as we take these assets more seriously, that, you know, we're gonna up the ante on how we're ensuring that people that are playing in this space have consumer confidence, because that's an important part of any, you know, micro economy.
For sure it is. Chris, you got any comments or thoughts?
Nope, I agree with you, Jeremy. Let's get these cards photographed before they make it into circulation.
And I wonder that from a cost perspective, if, you know, because one of the issues with what I did is it adds another step to the whole manufacture, package, distribution process. And I understand that. Like, I did hold them up. I held up the pack out team at their production facility. Not by much, though. Like, not by much, but I did hold them up a little bit. Maybe, you know, because again, once I started going, they were able to go too. And I practiced for this. I trained for this. I knew I had to be efficient, and I might have added 4 hours to the whole process. That's it. So I don't know if the opportunity to add this level of intrigue to the unboxing experience outweighed the benefits of just having a photo database. And then there's the whole thing about does the photo database become public right at the moment the cards that the product drops, you know, when the product is released? I know Upper Deck doesn't love that concept of having all the patches known, because you might know that the best Connor Bedard patch got pulled, so who's going to open Cup anymore? Like, that's kind of, I think, is part of their fear. And I think that's a legitimate fear, but then there has to be there has to be a workaround there. There has to be. And I know there is one, you know. I saw someone talk about it somewhere, said something like, well, once a card is released and the owner puts it into the database, it unlocks the image for everybody else to see now. Well, okay, great. There's maybe not a perfect solution, but a starting point for something. So I don't know what their plans are in the future with this technology, if they're going to broaden its scope to other products, like other insert sets, patch inserts within the Cup, and then other products as well, or if it's just going to be for RPAs, or maybe they will end up doing a photo database as well on top of this. Who knows? For the other cards, I just don't know. But either way, I want to give them credit for doing something. My interview with the president of Upper Deck, Jason Mashra, is on the channel. It's a Road to the National episode. It's a third one I've done, and it's there. It's not a long. It's 30 minutes. You guys can listen to it. It'll be coming out on podcast next week as well, and something to consider hearing right from the president of Upper Deck. So, and then the Gong Show guys did a great job with Grant Sandground, who's a VP there as well. So there's some great content out there on this topic, and I encourage everybody to look at this. This is a big deal, guys. Like, it is a big deal. They actually took measures to get this to move towards fixing this problem. But I will say it's a big step for them, but I think it's a baby step in the whole scheme of things, because there are so many more cards that need to be addressed, and so many that are so much more important than 90% of the RPAs that are going to come out of the product. All right, guys. This episode of Sports Cards Live is now. No, not yet, Chris. Not yet.
That was fast.
You're like, damn, you're catching me off guard there. So, guys, unless Tony, Joe, Chris has anything else on that, I think we're going to start to wrap up. I'm seeing shaked heads. So I think we're good to, again, wrap it up. Laura says, another thought-provoking, truly entertaining evening. Thank you, all guests, chatters, and you, Jeremy. Thank you so much, Laura. Appreciate that. Yes, Ziggy, these high-end products are hand-packed. Michael H. wants to thank his third base coach for this episode. Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Michael H. And okay, I'm not going to scroll up. I'm just going to say thank you to Chris C. Appreciate the comment as well. Thank you, Michael H. Appreciate it. Brett S. Thank you, Ziggy. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We're going to wrap up now. Like, this episode is coming to an end, guys. No episodes next weekend. As I mentioned, no Sports Cards Live, no Fanatics Collect Weekly Auction Watch Party Live. I will be at the Edmonton Expo. I hope to see some of you there. Thank you, Mike Petty, for being here tonight. Thank you, Bob Boozle, for being here tonight. Brett S. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Guys, Tony, get ready because you're on the mic here. So unmute yourselves, everybody. You'll go last, Tony. Thank you as well to Mr. Minty for joining us. I also want to thank Leighton for joining and Mikey Singer for joining us early as well. Reef the Sea, thank you for being here. Triple V, appreciate you for being here too. Oh, look at this. Bob Boozle is king of the show. I don't really know what's going on with all that, but congratulations to you. Chris C, thank you for coming on to the chat. Appreciate it. Nuba, good stuff. Thanks for being here, guys. All right. With that, here on May the 31st, 2025, this episode of Sports Cards Live is now
Over.
Over.
And good night, everybody.